The border bill, it's not really a border bill. They're calling it a border security bill, but it is a disaster. It's basically funding for Ukraine to the tune of $60 billion, funding for Israel, and $20 billion for amnesty, I guess. The bill basically just codifies exactly what it is the Biden administration is doing. It creates an easier path for asylum seekers, quote unquote, to be granted asylum and to be given work permits. This was the play. It was obvious. Joe Biden screws up the border and basically creates a mess. Then when Republicans start complaining, Joe Biden says, I need a bill. Then when they put together a bill giving Biden everything he wants and destroying the border, they call it a security bill. So when Republicans in the House, not the Senate, oppose it, the media will run rampant screaming the Republicans are against their own bill. That was the narrative, and that's exactly what's happening. So we'll talk about that. Plus, we got crazy news, depending on how you view it. The federal government has sent a memo calling on the Alaskan National Guard to deploy to the southern border, which would include Texas for support for aviation. It's a single grain of sand in the heap of things are kind of heating up. The last time this happened, as many people are claiming, it's routine, this happens all the time. Yeah, the last time it happened was 5 years ago under Trump, and it was 10 personnel. We're now seeing 20 personnel. It's either the most tone-deaf thing imaginable, the most tone-deaf thing you can do at a time when the state is in 14 states basically had a meeting. All their governors came together saying, we will secure the border against the Biden administration. Joe Biden has threatened a deadline against them. And now you've got the Alaska National Guard coming down to work with CBP on the border. And this does include Texas as part of their deployment. Naturally, there are already attempts to claim this is nothing, don't worry about it, but it's a grain of sand. And I think it's probably bad precedent, but we'll talk about that. Plus, I want to talk about this rumor of RFK Jr. running on the Libertarian tickets, and maybe. And then I want to talk about Michael Rappaport, leftist comedian, well, liberal comedian who he's not a leftist, he's a liberal, absolutely hates Donald Trump, has now made several videos talking about how he's going to vote for pig dick Donald Trump. So we'll talk about him. He's a funny guy, but he's very liberal. Before we get started, my friends, head over to castbrew.com to buy the best cup of coffee you'll ever have. Look, there's Alex Stein right here screaming because he needs the coffee. We got all the best flavor. Oh, man, we're sold out of it. Oh, here we go. Ground coffee. We've got Appalachian Nights. That stuff, Appalachian Nights, is selling so crazy. And Rise with Roberto Jr., we did not realize how popular and how delicious everyone would find this coffee. I knew it was good because we all worked together to make it. And now once the people have discovered just how good it is flying off the shelves. So if you want to support the work that we do, we sponsor ourselves. You buy Cast Brew coffee at castbrew.com and you support the work we're doing. We're going to be having an event at the new location for the coffee shop, probably March 5th, for a limited number of Timcast.com members. So don't forget to also go to Timcast.com, click join us, become a member to get access to the uncensored members only show Monday through Thursday, 10 p.m. And you get to join the Discord server. And now the best part. We're doing our first event at the Cast Brew coffee shop location. Second floor, it's a separate club. And we're going to have about 50 tickets. Super low key, but we're gonna be likely doing maybe even once a month live in person in Martinsburg, West Virginia. But it's a private thing. It's just members only, not a public affair. It's a private only thing. And so make sure you are a member at timcast.com because when those tickets go up, our members will get the notification first. And as a member, of course, what does your membership get you? Aside from access to the uncensored shows, as a member of the Discord, you can call in and actually talk to us on those uncensored shows. And you're making all of it possible. You'll also get access to those ticket sales if you want to come and hang out. But we really do appreciate everybody who supports our work. So smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends. Joining us tonight to talk about this and everything else is Josh Smith.
Hey, what's going on, Tim? Thanks so much for having me back. I appreciate you.
Absolutely. Who are you? What do you do?
I'm the host of Break the Cycle with Joshua Smith live in the evenings on YouTube. And I'm a candidate for president of the United States for the Libertarian Party.
Right on. So this should be interesting. We got Phil hanging out.
Hello, everybody. My name is Phil Labonte. I'm the lead singer of the heavy metal band All That Remains. I'm an anti-communist and counter-revolutionary.
And Libby's hanging out.
Hey, guys. I'm Libby Emmons. I'm hanging out. I'm with the Post Millennial. Glad to be here.
And, of course, Serge is pressing all the buttons.
Yes, I am back. I am here. It's good to be back. I also see a friend of mine across the table here.
What's up? Yo, I made it back. I'm back from Miami. What's happening, everybody? Welcome back. I feel good, man. I got out of town. I went to Miami, and I'm like, yo, you want to talk about a culture war? Being in a place with a bunch of people that you don't necessarily agree with, and you're not the one curating who you're going to hang with and hanging with them for any long time anyway. and just being with those people, that's like frontline material. It's really invigorating.
I was just in LA for a week.
And so was Libby. Libby was out in California.
Yeah, I was in California for a good stretch. I was in LA working with Prager on something, and then
Did you step in any poop?
no, but I did
That's
keep
lucky.
saying
That's
to
San
my
Francisco,
son,
yeah.
"Hey, hon, don't step in the poop. Hey, watch it, don't step in the poop."
Did you
Yeah, it's
download
wild.
the poo? The
But we
poo
were in
map?
LA and San Francisco, and we had a spectacular time.
We were me and Allison were hanging out at MGM National Harbor all weekend, and I had some stories early in the day about this Trump derangement syndrome guy. But there was another guy who was a fairly liberal guy who was like, "I don't like Donald Trump. We got to vote for Biden." Blah blah blah. But he was complaining about the poop. He was like, he's like, "Have you seen they got this map, the social media app where you can see all the poop?" And I was like, "You get it? Why would you want to vote for these people?"
I don't know, man. Poop and death. It's like two things.
In California, the politicians fell upwards. That's what.
That's right.
True.
Gavin Newsom. They wanted to cover the whole state in poop. So
Let's jump to this story. We'll kick it off with this Huffington Post headline. It's a betrayal. Republicans go ballistic over bipartisan border bill they demanded. This is the game. Everybody who knows anything about politics predicted exactly this. Biden comes out and says, "I need a new law to secure the border." Republicans and Democrats in the Senate come together and create an amnesty bill, which codifies exactly what Biden is already doing. There's no negotiation here. It literally just gives Biden everything locked in, nailed in, bang.
Yep.
And so when House Republicans are like, "Yo, no," the media, of course, was always going to say the Republicans are lying, obstructing, and this was part of their plan. Donald Trump wants chaos. This is what they're saying. They're saying that the reason why in the House they're calling this bill dead on arrival and they won't vote on it is because they're terrified of Donald Trump, and Donald Trump wants chaos so he can win the election. It is the long con. But here's the reality. We've got this post from Mike Lee, U.S. Senator for Utah, who says the dirty dozen disasters in the so-called border deal codifies catch and release, allows up to 1.8 million illegal aliens to enter before temporary closing off parts of the border. It funds sanctuary cities and NGOs sending illegals around the country. It subsidizes free taxpayer-funded legal counsel to illegal aliens. It expands parole instead of limiting it. It increases green cards by 50,000 per year for 5 years. Work permit for adult children of H-1B visa holders. Immediate work permits to every illegal released from custody after they pass an initial screening. Nothing to deport illegals. Afghan Adjustment Act creates a pathway decision for over 60,000 poorly vetted Afghans who were brought to the country due to Biden's disastrous withdrawal. Weakens asylum screenings by codifying Biden policy. No immediate funding for the wall. And now, I love how Mike Lee said this is bad for the border. What it doesn't mention is $60 billion in funding for war in Ukraine. Or I believe it's what, $14 million for funding for Israel.
Yeah, there's a
74 in
lot of,
total. 74 billion in total for between Ukraine and Israel. So, and the whole bill is only 120 billion. So, I mean, you're talking 20 billion for border, and then it's basically a war powers bill.
Yeah,
That's
it's
what
a,
it is.
it's a foreign wars
Bill.
funding act.
$0, zero laws, and zero policy for border security.
Well, and the craziest
Zero.
thing, and Libby and I were talking about this before the show started. If you read through the bill, and I don't know why Mike Lee's not bringing this up and other people, but there's a portion of this bill, there's a provision in this bill that gives the right for all of these things to be heard in the DC District Court going forward. So that
Yeah,
means
that's right. We
it's gonna-
found it.
Yeah, it's going to give them.
So they're on 150.
Yeah, it's going to give them
Page one. Where can I pull that? I think we have it.
Page 150, do a
150.
search for judicial review.
Yeah,
It's
so-
right there at the bottom, page 150.
All reviews on these matters will go through the district court in DC, in the District of Columbia. So they will have free reign over all of these issues from now on in DC.
The biggest problem,
right.
the biggest problem with the bill, the existence of the bill, is the Republicans allowing it to be debated is
you wanna pull
giving
Can you tweet it?
credibility
Yeah, I'll
to
tweet
the
it.
argument that there is that the bill is necessary in the first place. The federal government has all of the authority that it needs to take care of the border. There does not need to be another bill. There doesn't need to be new authorization from Congress. There does not need to be anything except for the executive to use the powers that he has and to handle the job assigned to him in the Constitution. One of the few things that are specifically said that the president has to take care of.
I just want to give a shout out. I asked Libby to tweet out the bill so I could pull up the DC provision, but Libby retweeted Mike Cernovich. He said if the border bill were truly a compromise, Democrats would support it as a standalone rather than tie it to the $60 billion WTF to money laundering Ukraine. It's all about money laundering. But I just love the WTF, like 60 billion. It's done. It's over. It's remarkable that anyone in their right mind could try to justify this expense.
Well,
I
meanwhile,
just sent it to you.
Meanwhile,
put
Ukraine's
it
like,
You tweeted
the bill.
forcibly enlisting females to fight their war because they're doing so badly.
How long
That's
have they
crazy.
been doing that?
It's at least a month now. Yeah, so they're forcibly enlisting women to fight their war because
Where,
they're
in
doing
Ukraine?
something in Ukraine. Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
women
look-
are already fighting in Israel for sure.
Oh, yeah.
That's like part of the deal.
But the situation in both Israel and in Ukraine is like these are arguably existential threats, right? So like if the Palestinians had their way, there wouldn't be an Israel, and if Russia has its way, they might take at least half.
Oh,
of
I
Ukraine.
mean, can I point out that when I said 14 billion to Israel, that includes to Palestine as well?
Right.
They're-
yeah, because
they're-
we're
they're-
funding both sides of that war.
Absolutely.
And we have been for
Like clowns, like
Forever.
damn fools.
We're dumb as shit.
I mean, anybody who's watched our foreign policy in the Middle East for the last, 3, 4, 5 decades knows that we always fund both sides of every war. Then we never lose.
It's so infuriating.
Schumer is saying the children of Gaza will starve. And like, come on, we all know when you send money to these NGOs, it funnels up to Hamas. As soon as these resources go in, Hamas is the governing body. They take it. Why are we playing this game? And I'm not saying like pick a side. I'm saying neither.
Yeah,
let's come back to America, baby.
Yeah,
The
you don't
fact
have to-
that
I'm
we're-
into neither
the fact
myself.
that we're talking about it is so frustrating because there is absolutely no legitimate reason for Ukraine and Israeli funding to be tied to controlling our own border. It's so
No, and
goddamn
it's
frustrating.
It just shows the lie, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it shows the lie so clearly. You don't care about American
Not at
sovereignty.
all.
You don't care about American national security. What they really don't care about are Americans. I mean, when I talk to liberals, when I talk to conservatives, everyone's like, "Yeah, it's a little too much. This whole immigration thing is too much." You have officials in New York saying it's going to destroy New York City, and everyone's like, "Oh, let's just do that anyway. Let's destroy New York City."
Let me read this. This is page 150 of the bill. It says, judicial review. Notwithstanding any other provision of this act, judicial review of any decision or action in this section shall be governed only by the United States District Court for the District of Columbia, which shall have sole and original jurisdiction to hear challenges, whether constitutional or otherwise, to the validity of this section or any written policy directive, written policy guideline, procedure, or implementation thereof, issued by or under the authority of the Secretary to implement this section. Long story short, you guys want to know what this bill is?
It's trying to corporatize the American government by giving diplomatic control to the federals. It's not the way
They're
it's
trying
built.
to make sure that Donald Trump will have no power to do anything about the border if he becomes president.
They said constitutional or otherwise, meaning we're going to do it whether it's
No matter
constitutional
what.
or not
Yeah.
if we sign this bill.
Well, and listen, I'm not a lawyer.
Let's shout out because really quick.
No,
let's read that again. It literally says whether constitutional or otherwise.
Yes. Now, I'm not a lawyer and I'm not, super versed in legalese, but I will say that sounds to me like we're, giving full reign to DC to make.
Well, we're not.
Well, at the thing
Somebody's
too, though,
trying
is
to.
DC already has full reign over a lot of stuff. Like we already know that Biden didn't need a border bill to do anything.
No.
He signed all of this open border nonsense into executive orders and various actions within his first couple of days in office. That like huge numbers of border measures saying we're going to increase the number of asylum seekers we're going to let in. We're going to give everybody a court date. We're going to, instead of remain in Mexico, we have remain in the U.S. for as long as it takes. And now this border bill, what it really does is it says we're going to get more border agents to process more people faster.
Yeah.
We're going to get more immigration
is-
judges to give more people asylum faster.
There's nothing good in there.
There's
the record,
nothing good.
The record was 10,000 per day. This says if it reaches 8,500 per day, then we'll move the rest to a legal port of entry.
Wait.
Wait. So
There's no-
they're
and-
not saying they're going to stop them. They're saying after 8,500, the rest can go apply at a legal port of entry, and it removes the requirement for courts
Right.
in many circumstances.
Well,
This
and
is
you
a
saw what Chris
non-starter.
Murphy said, right? Chris Murphy, who's one of the architects of the bill,
a
said that
garbage
under this bill, the border never closes.
Yeah.
He said
Yeah.
the border never closes. So what kind of border security is this if we can't even close our own borders?
Well, here's the thing too. So I don't know if you saw this, but if you saw this bill, you'd be criticizing every portion of this bill if it came across across your desk and you actually had the time to read it before.
Well,
it
they're
went up
not.
to a
Yeah,
vote.
yeah.
But Matt Gaetz, who, you know, for all intents and purposes is a pretty decent guy most of the time on some of this stuff, but he came out and said he came out and he said you know, why don't we just defund UN so we can fund Israel? I said I had to post to him. I said Matt, you realize this isn't Israel, right? We don't live in Israel. You're the America First guy. What are you doing? You know, it's this whole bill is from front to back just terrible. There's
Well,
nothing
and the
good
other
in
thing too
there.
about the
To be
UN
fair-
is we fund the UN, and the UN hires a bunch of people that are linked to Hamas and stations and puts them in Gaza to distribute all of the aid to Hamas.
But this is where we can find a compromise. How about we say, all right, $60 billion to Ukraine, but no more funding to the UN ever. No funding to, you know, this is the last one. Like you tie it to something. What did I say? The general idea is you tie it to something in such a way that it puts them in a position they can't maintain.
We'll fund the wars that they want if we can bulldoze all of Washington
No,
D.C.
Listen, 12% of the population,
they'd want
12%.
that.
Okay, if we can bulldoze easy, I'm in. No, but 12% of the population in the United States having problem put food on the table today, and we're sending $60 billion to Ukraine. Why? It's this.
Well, because
this
Chuck
American
Schumer, you
taxpayer
saw
money.
Chuck Schumer.
Literally
he is
because it's
threatening
money
us.
laundering.
It is money laundering. And like he threatened that if we don't do it, then he's going to send our kids to go fight in Eastern Europe.
Everybody that's in office now needs to get fired.
I wonder who.
November needs to be an absolute, like, it must be a
Cleanse.
massacre. Everybody that's in office, if you're an incumbent,
A metaphorical
fire
massacre.
Them.
I wonder who they got to help.
Voting.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, we're talking about the vote.
Let me pull up this from the Post Millennial. Chuck Schumer demands border never closes bill pass, or else U.S. troops will have to fight in Ukraine. Now, hold on. We're gonna break this down. He did not literally say Ukraine. He said in Eastern Europe, in a NATO ally in a few years. And so it's vague enough. First, he could mean Poland. He could mean Sweden. I think it's fair to argue he might literally mean Ukraine, in that the West wants to take control of it and would absolutely shove it into NATO if they had to. But he's basically saying Vladimir Putin is going to invade Europe, and so we need this border security bill? Whose border security? Ukraine's?
Yeah, I want to know.
It's a Ukraine border
I
security
want to know how
bill.
my border got to Ukraine. You know,
It's
I
pretty
really wanna know.
bizarre. Yeah.
You know, when we used to say, how did our freedoms get to the Middle East? How did our border get to
Who's
Ukraine?
we now?
Fire them all, bulldoze D.C., salt the earth.
I'm coming to believe this hypothesis. At least I had the hypothesis that we are in a slow coup that's been going on for 100 years, man. It is like a banking. Yeah, they're trying to do it not fast enough to alert the people.
JFK.
Like JFK, the Federal
wasn't
Reserve,
slow.
the business plot, there's so much. There's so many foreign wars that are proxy wars with money getting laundered away from our country. And like, I mean, 9/11, even, I could just go down a list of things I find in my hypothesis that this is a news show. I'm not going to do that on a news show, but like the last 10 years, it's been like, they're like, make it, don't alert them. Just let's get the money. Let's do the COVID spending. They increased our budget by like 20%, our deficit by like 20% in like 2 years.
Look, a soft coup. I mean, I would actually suggest, I would ask, at what point does the government become the functioning and in control government, right? So Taiwan, the official name of Taiwan is the Republic of China, I believe, correct?
Yeah.
And so many people make the joke that communist China is just West Taiwan, because the original government of China fled to Taiwan.
Yep.
They've maintained themselves ever since, resisting the communists. And so my question is, at what point after the coup happened in the United States, Woodrow Wilson, who knows, the banker plot, the Federal Reserve,
1913. That's a big
right. So
one.
my point is simply this: maybe the revolution was Donald Trump. Not that he is a perfect guy, not that he was the guy, but that he ripped the establishment's power in twain, and they were losing their minds.
They're
And
still losing it.
Absolutely. And so when everyone's like, they're trying to stage a coup, and I'm like, well, you know, the thing is, the establishment was in control. The Uniparty was in control. Then a bunch of people on the internet made a bunch of memes, and the reality TV real estate mogul wins and says, don't do wars, we're shutting it down, secure our borders. And then they lose their minds like, we've lost control of this. That's why it's funny when they say our democracy. They say Donald Trump is a threat to our democracy. They're literally saying that there's a populist uprising against the autocratic control we've maintained for generations.
Yep, that's true. It was George Bush Sr. in the 90s said that we were moving towards a new world order. This liberal economic order was fading into something new, a global order. And Trump got into office and canceled the Trans-Pacific Partnership right away.
And that's
3 days
exactly-
in. It was if you look at the investor-state dispute settlement clause in that Trans-Pacific Partnership, it said foreign countries, these investors, these Malaysian oil companies, can sue a state for discrimination.
Right.
If we chose not to buy a Malaysian company's oil as American citizens, they could sue our country, and as taxpayers, we would have had to pay a corporation out. That's what that Trans-Pacific Partnership was going to do to us. And Obama was on board. And then Trump came in and threw it in the garbage. I don't even know if he knew what it was, what it was doing. I don't know if he stopped something he understood.
He just knew there were a bunch of people outside yelling Trump, and they had expressed concerns about it.
Let's not fool ourselves and act like there's not so much foreign influence today still in the United States, though, right?
course,
I mean,
of
it's AIPAC's arguably one of the very strongest outside influences in the United States today, and it's and it's not good for us as Americans, especially when you're an American first person, right? But Trump got into office and immediately hired John Bolton, so I mean, the establishment thing is kind of
No, I think
He was not great at hiring.
Donald Trump.
it's the
across the
worst.
board,
It was
yeah.
really bad.
Understand, Donald Trump thought he was like, I'll play ball and I'll get done what I want to get done. And they were like, no, you don't understand. You live under our boot. The joke is, as soon as you win the election, you sit down in the Oval Office, guy from the CIA sits down and just sits down, says, Mr. President, opens a manila folder and then slides a picture of JFK right across the table and says, we'll be in touch, and then leaves.
Right.
We get it. Trump is the guy who was like, what is this? I don't know what you're showing me. Why are you showing me a picture of this guy? And they're like, we're letting you know. Letting me know what? I don't get it. And they're like,
Too
this guy
dumb to intimidate.
doesn't understand what we're trying to say to him. And he's like, look, we're going to secure the border. We're shutting down the doors. No, Mr. President, we're not. Yes, we are on the bus. And he doesn't listen.
Yeah.
So what do I think is, when Trump was running, I remember I was in D.C. Trump had a meeting with a bunch of establishment Republicans. They did not want him. The Democrats wanted him to be the Pied Piper candidate. Trump, I think, genuinely wants to secure the borders, bring jobs back. That goes against their agenda. And so he thinks when he gets in, now I'm the president. I've got to play ball with some of these guys. I got to, there's favors. We'll bring in John Bolton. I think Sheldon Adelstein wanted
a lot of
favors. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so then what happens? Russiagate. And Trump, I think, finally realizes, bro, you are being tricked, manipulated, and lied to, and you brought in a bunch of dumbasses.
I question whether or not there are people available to fill the positions that are not currently already steeped in the bureaucracy, right? Like, there are a lot of positions that have to be filled, and I don't know who you go with that's actually someone that's not already got their significant connections to the existing bureaucracy, just because
that's my concern.
Yeah, but Bolton is like,
well, obviously
the worst.
Trump-
The
yeah,
worst of the
obviously.
worst.
let me tell you, in order to hire John Bolton, Trump had to drive past a local prison, drive past a city dump,
All better people.
and go way down to the Pacific garbage gyre, where he got a submersible and went down to where all the deepest trenches of garbage have sunk, and dig even deeper than that. And there's John Bolton.
We could have dug up the corpse of Madeleine Albright, and it would have been the same thing, essentially. And so, it's terrible. And so that was what worries me about Trump too, right? Like in 2024, should Trump win? Is it the same thing going to happen? And
No new wars.
And then that's great. And I get that. But my concern is that a lot of my young Republican friends, because I have a lot of friends that are Republicans, tons of friends, that are very excited about Trump because of who the VP pick might be. And I think everybody's like, oh, it's got to be somebody like Vivek or somebody like Kristi Noem or somebody like that. And I'm like, you realize that 80% of the GOP is still deeply entrenched neocons, and they have to play to that part of the party,
So
not
who
the
do you-
7% Vivek.
It would be really funny if Trump just came out and was like, I've chosen my VP, John Bolton. He's a great guy. We'd be like,
I think it's going to be
should have
somebody
used that as
along
a
the lines
skit.
of Nikki Haley. I really believe
I think it
that.
might be Tucker, man.
I'll put it simply
It's
for
not
those that
gonna
don't
be
know. John Bolton has a long history of working in administrations and just wanting war. And so he had a quote, I think this was during the Trump administration. He said something like, this time next year, we will be celebrating in Tehran. And so he is just a neocon maximalist warmonger character. Nikki Haley ain't got nothing on the war he wants.
Yeah.
Trump hiring him was a mistake. And then Bolton stabbed him in the back.
Yeah.
You could do the hire a cabinet of a bunch of successful businessmen. At this point, it's like the founders did. The founding fathers were a bunch of successful businessmen that got together and started and ran a government together because they knew how to run things, and they weren't entrenched in the garbage.
Elon Musk for VP.
I mean, if
Not
you're
gonna
talking
happen.
about
Well,
getting,
he's not born in America. So.
if you're talking about getting people that are actually going to satisfy, supposedly the other side of the aisle, the last people they're going to be satisfied with are people that are CEOs and board members
Dude,
of
you
companies.
you can't satisfy the other side. Satisfy the other side of the aisle.
I would agree with
we,
that.
we were talking about this downstairs because this song came on by Passion Pit, and there's a line. He has a song called "I Took a Walk," and there's a line in the song where it says, "We can rip apart all the socialists and all their damn taxes," and the left went nuts over the song, attacking the band and criticizing it. It was like a cancel culture thing for having dared said that. And that the point of the song, though, is it's about the feelings of his relatives, and it's quotes from them and things they have said. He's not literally saying he hates socialism. He's just saying, like, this is what the older guy said to him. But the left doesn't care what's true. They don't care about the point of the statement or the message. It's just it's surface level. It's one-dimensional thinking. So if you want to satisfy these people, I mean, we were talking about this just before the show, and I mentioned it in the morning segment about this guy. I was playing a poker, and he had Trump derangement syndrome down in D.C. And I realized something. My girlfriend had said he was muttering to himself. He was screaming, "How could you vote for Trump?" He would not listen to a single word. He asked me to name one thing Trump did that I liked. I said, "No new wars." He keeps muttering. He's like, "You can't even name one thing." I'm like, "Abraham Accords." He keeps muttering. And I'm like, this guy can't hear a word. He's just sitting there. You're so stupid. These people are so dumb and stupid. And then my girlfriend's like, he doesn't know what the Abraham Accords are. And I was like, there's no way for him to respond at all
he doesn't
to
know.
what that means because he doesn't know. You can't satisfy these people because they live in a shoebox.
But arguably, besides the no new wars thing, the best thing Trump did was make people extreme on the corporate news media being the enemy of the people. I mean, that's the greatest thing that Trump did, and it was hilarious watching him work. I mean, just the way that he's able to just troll people in real life is amazing. Like, that's great. I love that. But I worry about Trump too and what that means for the people who get their hopes up for a lot of stuff and then it doesn't happen.
Well, look.
In 2020, less than 500,000 people came across the border and were apprehended. It was less than 500,000.
Yeah.
Illegal immigrants
in 2020.
In 2020.
What can you really expect from Donald Trump too? Like what is it that you think people are expecting?
I think people, first of all, the VP spot. I think that a lot of people are going to be let down when we find out who the VP.
But that's not even when he's president. Let's say Donald, he gets elected, and I don't know.
And people are like, "Oh, it's going to be somebody great." I'm like, "Do you remember who his VP was last time?" I know. Right?
So let's say it's Trump Burgum. I'm just picking like the least probable candidate.
Sure. Yeah.
What do people think? Like what do you perceive as the hopes and dreams?
I think on the extreme side, it's all these people are going to go to jail, right? Like this is the revenge tour. We're gonna lock up all these corrupt people and shut down the border, and we're gonna end all the wars, and we're gonna give all the tax cuts. And I know, but that's what a lot of people think.
But no. But like first, locking people up and arresting everybody. Maybe some people might get some referrals. You don't think that some people won't get arrested?
I sure hope so. I
don't think it's going to be like military tribunals where they go after the Clintons or anything. I think it's going to be like we're going to hear about lawyers and we're going to hear about election officials. There's going to be criminal charges brought up by. I mean, could you imagine if Kash Patel was the AG?
Yeah.
Right. There would be criminal charges.
Right.
I don't think it's going to be like this apocalyptic thing.
No.
Ending wars? Well, Donald Trump is the best president in my lifetime on foreign war. And pulling our troops out of Afghanistan, setting the deadline for it, I should say. Biden screwed that up. Trying to get our troops out of Syria, and no new wars.
He kind of expanded the Syrian war though a little bit when he did that too, right?
When he tried to get our troops out.
Yeah.
But how so?
Didn't we send them a bunch more cash right after that happened?
I mean, if we're leaving, and like if you came to me and said, we're gonna pull our here's what Trump wants to do: he wants to get all our troops out of Syria, and then we'll give Syria some cash. It's like, okay.
But he didn't pull the troops out.
No. He did. He gave the order, and then the officials lied to the American people, to him, and kept them in.
Fair.
Right. That's mess. Look, if the only thing I could be offered was vote for Donald Trump, he will take a dump on the floor of the White House, but he won't start a war, I'll take it. Done.
Yeah, that is a better deal.
I mean,
considering how many people are taking dumps on the floor.
I mean, to be honest, like Joe Biden is like, he'll dump on the floor in his pants in the everywhere he goes. He'll have to change his pants several times. He'll start several wars, and I'm like, well, there's no upside to that.
Yeah, well, also
There's
none of us are
nothing
stupid
good.
enough to believe that Joe Biden is actually leading the foreign policy in the United States right now, right? Like,
Dude is a mess.
He's 23. They just did a poll. They just put out a poll where only 23% of the respondents said that they think his mental capacity is good enough to be the president again, and that's. I mean, I think that's high. I think
I think that's
23% is
high, too.
high, but that's really low in a poll for this country.
Well, you
right
heard
now, so.
what Bill Maher was saying. Gavin Newsom's a winner. He can win an election.
Sure.
Joe Biden, man. You know, the argument from the DeSantis people that the only reason, or one of the main reasons they don't want Trump is a loser. He's going to lose. Everyone hates him. And it is true. The only reason Joe Biden won is because people vote against Donald Trump. I take that back. Not the only reason. A good factor in why Biden actually got votes was not because anyone liked Biden, but the strong factor in why Biden won was because activists went out and collected ballots.
Because they mailed
Right.
ballots to
Yeah.
people, and then
Yeah.
people were told how to vote.
Well, I'm telling you, listen.
And then they told us that wasn't happening.
The United States is really big on politicians failing upwards. We've known this forever. And coming from California, I watched Gavin Newsom ruin San Francisco. San Francisco used to be a really beautiful city when I was a kid, and he ruined it. He destroyed it. And instead of going, hey, that guy really ruined one of our coolest cities in the state, let's get rid of him, we said, let's make him the governor of the state. And so we can have a poo maps for all of California. And next, who knows? Maybe the country.
Maybe the world.
Maybe the
Why
world.
stop there? Mars
Well,
needs one.
there was an article written several years ago that I had covered. California is 5 years ahead of the United States. Over the past several decades, whatever happens in California 5 years later is national. And so they talk about a bunch of policies, gay marriage was a big issue in California, things like that. Illegal immigration, sanctuary cities became
Sanctuary
cities.
sanctuary state for
Right.
trans kids.
Well, California had sanctuary cities, which then turned into a sanctuary state. And then all of a sudden you start seeing it spread across the country. And I think it has a lot to do with the undue influence they have through illegal immigration.
Sure.
They get extra votes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's no doubt.
Yeah, they have extra. Some members of Congress have said it's between 5 and 7 extra congressional seats, which is 5 to 7 extra electoral college votes for president because of non-citizens they have illegally allowed into their country in defiance of federal law.
Well, under Trump said that the census should differentiate between people who are here illegally and citizens who are, obviously lawful citizens. And that's what he was aiming for. And Biden reversed that within his first few days in office. And of course, the reason is to get more congressional seats for Democrat-led states that allow all that illegal immigration.
I want to jump to the story from the Anchorage Daily News. February 3rd, Alaska National Guard plans deployment to assist federal government on U.S.-Mexico border. I love it. I posted an image of this, and someone said, who knew Alaska was so based? And everyone responded, Alaska assisting the feds is not based. No. And so the gist of the story is this. They're deploying a couple aircraft and 20 personnel to assist with the aircraft. They say it's routine. This is, they say, Major Ryan Wierzbicki, a spokesman for the U.S. Army's Joint Task Force North, said in a phone interview that Alaska Guard members would be sent to any of 4 states along the border, including Texas and Arizona. Federal requests for states to provide border assistance are issued regularly and have become routine. Now, I tweeted about this somewhat facetiously. I said, what do you call it when a National Guard is called up to go against another state's National Guard? And I got community noted on X, where it took selective excerpts from the article to obfuscate what's actually happening. It said they are not going against each other. I'm like, I asked the question intentionally to, not to state it definitively, but it is true. These individuals will be providing assistance to CBP in Texas as well as, but that does mean Texas. That does mean part of their deployment will put them up against Texas. I don't know how else to describe it. If Texas National Guard is saying no to CBP, back the F off, and you have no jurisdiction here, or we've cut you off from your jurisdiction, how in any way could you interpret any amount of National Guard being called in by the feds to a variety of states, which include Texas, anything other than they will be as part of the deployment against Texas National Guard? It also says, they also said it's a routine thing. Many people responded saying, it's totally routine. It's not that big a deal. Yo, it says in the article, the last time they did this was 2019. 5 years ago. It's not routine.
No.
Now, I'm not saying Joe Biden got on the phone and said, we need to bring the National Guard in to stop Texas. I'm saying it's a grain of sand in a heap. And the question is this the most tone-deaf move you could possibly make when the Texas National Guard has deployed armed soldiers to physically remove and bar federal agents from removing border barriers? Or was it an intentional CBP needs assistance because of what is happening with, look, I'll put it this way. I don't care what state they go to. CBP in Texas are completely at odds as to how to operate this. When we've had people who have reported on the ground at the border tell us When Taylor Hansen was here, he said tens of thousands of people, it's chaos, there's litter. What happened after Texas took over? 3?
Yeah.
He said 4 to 6 maybe. And I said 1,000? He goes, no, 4 to 6, like 4, 5 or 6. And I was like, you mean like on my finger 4? Yeah, 4 people. I'm like, what? Yeah. So when CBP is facilitating human smuggling and then Texas steps in, what do you think it's going to mean that the Alaska National Guard is assisting them? It means these individuals who are providing assistance with aviation to the CBP will be at odds with the mission of the Texas National Guard. That's a fact. And I'll give you one more. Let me see if I can find this. I had this.
I'm surprised Alaska would send them, to be honest, and Dunleavy, because that state kind of already hates the Fed anyway.
Yeah, why would they do that?
They're like super. That's like one of those states that's actually pretty anti-federal.
I had the story pulled up. I lost it, but it's the Border Patrol Union supports the new border bill.
Yeah, because they're getting there's a lot of pay increases and stuff for border guards there.
But the border bill, as we covered in a previous segment, does not have any security at all. It codifies 8,500 criminal aliens entering the country every day and gives them the funding, and it gives them more authority to adjudicate asylum claims without a judge. So of course they're for it. Do we want? Let's say this law. Look, they're planning on having this law probably pass. I doubt it'll happen, but if it did. And CBP is now in the legal has legislatively been given the right to bring in 5,000 to 8,000 criminal aliens every day, and in some instances determine their asylum cases just right there, and they get work permits. Alaska National Guard is going to be helping them do that.
And that's still 3 million illegal immigrants a year, by the way, which is not a huge drop in what we're seeing currently. So it's not good.
None of this is acceptable.
No, I mean, it also, though, I mean, the border bill also has an increase in pay for asylum and border agents.
Yeah.
That's a big part of it.
So I'll point this out, too. In the community note, it said it has nothing to do with Operation Lone Star. That's exactly my point. Operation Lone Star is Texas's operation securing the border. This mobilization has nothing to do with that. It has to do with supporting Customs and Border Protection in what they do, which is the opposite of Operation Lone Star. And so they are trying really hard to downplay this move being made. I think we have to point this out because Alaskan Governor Mike Dunleavy actually joined 24 other GOP governors in support of Greg Abbott. Why now would he be like, okay, I guess? No. We put pressure on them and say, don't you dare. I don't care if it's 1, 5, or 20. I don't care if it's 200. We should say, no. CBP is facilitating human trafficking. Do not send support.
Yep.
It's all for show, though.
Did you see what Abbott said? He said that there had been 3,000 to 4,000 people coming across in a day, and now it's gone down to 3.
Yeah, it's wild. That's what he was
That's what Taylor Hansen was telling us. Taylor has gone down. Shout out to Tenet Media. He reports for Tenet. Taylor was saying that he was there during the peak of the crisis, and there's garbage and thousands of people. Mm-hmm. And then once Texas takes over, 4.
That's wild.
Yeah,
they've moved. If I understand correctly, they have moved the locations to places in New Mexico and Arizona. They've started to go into other states,
which also makes sense for this deployment. Texas is at odds with CBP. They have put up barriers in Operation Lone Star, shipping containers with razor wire all over them. So the criminal enterprise is shifting operations to other parts of Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona. So what? Alaska National Guard is going to go help the human smugglers, CBP, at the border in Arizona? That is still working against this country. It's worse than just working against Texas.
Yeah, and so like the 10th Amendment gives Texas the right to handle their own border situation anyways. I mean, at the end of the day,
the border bill would get rid of that.
Yes, exactly. That's the goal. I think that's the goal because the 10th Amendment gives them the right. And they've moved the deadline on the cutoff deadline from Biden 3 times now? Has it been like 3 times?
Because they can't do anything.
They can't do anything. The Constitution gives Texas the right to guard their own borders. They could guard their borders from any illegal invasion that they want to because it's not mentioned that power is strictly given to the federal government. So what does the 10th Amendment say? It says that anything not mentioned expressly for the federal government here in the Constitution is up to the states.
What is it? Article 4, Section 4 states that the federal government must defend from invasion.
Sure, yes.
Yeah,
Now you got this bill that the National Guard can respond with lethal force on the border.
Yeah, but they can litigate. They can litigate what is an invasion all day long for years.
My point is, when you've got photos and videos of human traffickers with rifles, to the point where a Republican has proposed a bill that would allow the National Guard to use lethal force against these individuals, I'm like, I kind of think when they're smuggling humans with weapons into our country, and many of them are flying the flag of their home country, and like they have guns, I would call that an invasion.
Sure.
Did you guys see Brett Weinstein talked to Tucker Carlson? He went down to the Darien Gap, which is this area south of, I think, southern Panama, between South
the
America.
most dangerous.
Like 60 miles of jungle, where this is like where most people meet their maker when they're trying to flee here. They go through the Darien. I don't know if most, but a lot of people die in that jungle. And he said he saw camps, lots of camps, and they were very friendly. One in particular, very friendly, and they let him in, and he was talking to people. They're fleeing economics. They're not fleeing political asylum.
Right.
There's economic asylum, which is not, U.S. government, first of all, is not supposed to take people for economic asylum. It's not a real thing, because it displaces our own economics. Secondly, then Brett's like, yo, and then I went to this camp, and it was a Chinese camp, and they wouldn't let us anywhere near it. And they were what I would call hostile.
Wow.
He's like, so what I think is happening is that there is an economic migration happening, but it's masking an invasion.
Think of it like this.
I think there's a good chance of that.
Yeah, there's something that people don't, or that we don't talk about, or people don't bring up much, that I heard someone discussing today, was the one-child policy in China that went on from the 70s, I think it was.
Until like just a couple years ago.
Until recently.
Yeah.
There are, probably a couple, and I'm probably not exaggerating, but I don't know for sure, but I imagine it's probably a couple 100 million young men
with
that have nothing to do and no women.
That's
China
right.
needs to do something with these guys,
women
because
were
dudes,
aborted on top of everything else. Little girls were aborted before they could be born.
Yeah, and so these guys, young men that have nothing to do, they start civil wars. They cause all the problems societies run into. It's always young men that have nothing to do and don't have women. They don't have families.
I want to clarify we got a super chat, so I want to give some clarification, because they're pointing out that it says potentially deployed in early 2025. I think it's important that people know that, but I don't think it changes anything that we're talking about right now. It's tone deaf right now to make this announcement. And the other thing we talked about early in this segment is the point of the border security bill. One strong point is that, and why they're starting wars. They want to make sure that whatever happens, if Donald Trump gets elected, they steamroll through what they want with or without him and lock him in place so he can't change anything about it. Announcing this deployment early means that if Trump does get in office, he'll have a harder time stopping it from happening.
Can we talk about how crazy it is that we're bombing Iraq again for 33 years and we want to open the border completely? I mean, we've destabilized so many regions in the Middle East, and we're like, yeah, come on in. It's totally cool. No one's going to worry.
And also when people come in, right, we have this part of our culture now is to tell everyone that America sucks and everything that America stands for is bad, and that the culture
part of whose culture?
That's part of American culture right now.
Not my culture. Yeah.
Well, that's part of the culture of the nation in which we were born and raised. That culture has been taken over by really bad actors who hate America and hate Americans.
Revolution.
It's a cultural revolution. And so we have people coming in, and you have all of these progressives saying, your culture is better than ours. So don't bother assimilating. Don't learn English. Don't learn our values. Don't become part of our culture. And that's not how it used to be when you had like the Ellis Island
You
connection.
could call them you could call them what they are, Libby. They're communists.
Well,
it's the communists that did that.
You guys
There they are.
love poker tables. It is... You will get kicked out for speaking any other language but English.
I have fun hanging out watching you guys play poker. That had fun.
Yuri Bezmenov warned us of this in the 80s. I mean, he defected from Russia and said, hey, the communists are taking over every single one of your institutions. Your libraries, your schools, your government,
museums,
your hospitals.
All of the not-for-profits.
Mental health care.
What about the banks?
But the only reason that matters...
Have they overtly taken over the banks?
Probably, yeah.
The only reason it matters that they did this is that we no longer go to church. But to be fair, the communists are taking over a lot of churches too.
Yeah, that too. I mean, there's a church right up the street from my house hanging a giant rainbow flag in front of the church. I said, "What is that? What do you worship?"
Liberation theology.
Yeah, I'm like, what are you worshiping here, man? I mean, this is not.
I don't know. I moved to West Virginia, and the church I go to is full.
Yeah, I'm converting Orthodox currently because they're like the one church that hasn't cucked to the communists yet.
Do you go to that one that's like downtown Charlestown?
I don't want to say on air.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Where do you go to church at?
See you there.
Yeah, there's one that
see
Seamus
every Sunday with my child.
Right, Seamus would go there, and really nice. And I told the story of how like we were gonna go grab food, and Seamus was like, "Yeah, I got church, and I'll be at it this time." I was like, "Cool, we'll meet up." And I show up with my brother, and I'm just wearing my clothes, and I see these like little kids playing, and they're dressed very nicely, and I was like, "Man, something got lost."
Yes.
And it's not about, in my opinion, it's not about being Christian and believing in God, although I think there's a strong correlation between these things.
Community is huge.
Community and what's the right word? I guess decorum, in a sense.
Decorum, community, manners, feeling like you're part
Yep.
of something. Like the church I went to in Brooklyn, where I really liked I liked the other people there. I taught CCD there, and I liked them, but they
What does that mean? Sorry, CCD.
CCD, I forget what it's called, but it's basically where you teach the kids Catholicism, and they go through all the sacraments. So they start young and they go through catechism. Yeah,
You do
go
the same
through.
thing for Orthodox Church too.
Yeah, you go through all the sacraments. You have
CCD is so you can get confirmed as an adult
in the church.
Catholic
Yeah,
church.
but like you do.
You have to do it for Orthodox Church too.
confession
Yep.
and communion and confirmation and blah blah blah. But it was very like there was a Spanish mass that had all the families at it, and there were a ton of kids, and the whole mass was in Spanish. And then you had the English mass, which was just a lot of old people and hardly any kids. And we don't speak Spanish, so much the pity, I guess. And we would walk out of mass, and like all the families and kids were coming in, and like we weren't part of that mass. And I found it really frustrating. And I would say to the leadership of the church, we should do one giant bilingual mass, and parts of it are in Spanish and parts of it are in English. And they'd be like, well, we won't all understand what's going on. And I'm like, it doesn't matter if we know what's going on or not. The only thing that matters is that my kids and your kids are all hanging out, trying to get in trouble, playing under the pews. That's all that matters. That's what matters.
And that's the only thing they're doing to get in trouble. Yeah.
Right. That's great. Like my son recently got in trouble because he was at CCD, and it turned out that he and his friend cut mass, like they do CCD and then they have mass.
Yeah.
And the mom, my son's friend's mom, called and was very upset that the boys had cut mass. And I'm thinking like, yes, that's important. They should not cut mass. That's a problem. I'm also thinking, this is great. This is great. Like, this is what you're doing?
Yeah.
You are rebelling by cutting mass. I'm thrilled. In Brooklyn, like, what are you doing? You're like getting high on the street corner and robbing people. Here you're cutting mass. This is perfect.
Big deal, yeah. Well, I'll say this before we move on.
I hope he's not watching tonight.
I've been saying this for a while. The communists, the two things they have to be at war with all the time is a strong family unit and faith, right? Because when you have those strong ideals in your family or in your church community, then you don't just automatically cut to the communists. You don't say, "Oh, we need this collectivism to save us," right?
But what was it? Video games or TV? Because it was like the '90s when things started to fall apart. Because that's when people started to go. When I started to go inward, I could play a game by myself for 10 hours alone without talking to someone. I had books before that, but if I ever played with toys like Legos or Micro Machines, it was way better to have a second person to play with. A book, obviously, I was always alone, and it didn't make me communist. But video games made me very disconnected from human. And then a lot of online games, it's not about being kind. It's about like talking shit online. Yeah.
Well, that's what the schoolyard is too. The kids are talking shit.
The mid 2000s Call of Duty.
Not too bad.
None of the stuff.
Is it video games that I don't want to play?
I don't think it is video games.
Why are people so disconnected?
It's in the schools. It was
the schools.
All of the stuff, all of the socialization stuff, all of the basically all the socialist influence that we have now. It's all in the schools. It started in the 80s, and that was when it first kind of took root.
Peggy McIntosh's
Yeah,
Invisible Knapsack in 1989.
What's his name? Paulo Freire and the pedagogy of the oppressed and stuff.
All of that trash.
All of this stuff became the predominant way that teachers learn. So this stuff got into the schools that teach teachers. So that means that every teacher,
and then all those teachers went all over the country. So they're in Oklahoma,
exactly.
And they're in Nebraska,
so these teachers,
and
these teachers are the teachers that teach the teachers, right? So that you get it at the very source. You get them into an ideology that is based on an oppression, oppressor oppressed dynamic, and you can apply that however
Well,
you
and
want.
then
You can
you
apply
have-
it by race, you can apply it by gender, you can apply it by any way you want. But once you get that framework into the education of an entire generation, it just starts pumping out people
And the
that are
other- yeah.
ideologically possessed, that have the same worldview, which is it is our job, it is government's job, it is our job, it is society's job to make things equal. And that's why you get people that want equity. You want to have people that have equal outcomes, and that's just turns into socialism.
Let's jump to this story. We got some sports Kita. Some libs are waking up. Internet reacts as comic Michael Rappaport says voting for Trump is on the table after seeing migrants beat NYPD. I just want to say this real quick. I can't remember who tweeted it. It might have been Michael Malice, so apologies if I don't get the attribution right. But someone said, imagine what it must feel like to be in the corporate press where after nearly a decade of calling Donald Trump a fascist, far-right white supremacist, you find that most people in this country intend to vote for him. I saw that and I'm
was
like...
Cernovich.
That was
maybe
it Cernovich?
Not, maybe not. I know what you're talking about.
Did
I know
you
that
guys
tweet.
see
I
that,
just saw
though?
it.
So
Like 4
it's a
hours
great
ago.
point to be made. The power of the media narrative is gone. They can say whatever they want about Trump. Nobody cares. And now you've got Michael Rappaport, who spent his time complaining online about big dick Donald Trump. That's what he would say over and over again. And now he's made a video saying voting for him is on the table. And it's because
It's a really fun video.
it is. There's a bunch of issues, but mostly this past week, you got criminal aliens beating cops. Hold on, let me start over. You got criminal aliens mercilessly beating NYPD. And Michael
In
Rappaport in Midtown, and they get arrested and are released right away.
Alvin Bragg, who has charged Donald Trump with like 30-something felonies, won't even say what the felonies are,
Worst prosecutor.
released these guys. And he was like, we couldn't tell from the video exactly who they were. But did you see this thing, Tim? McConnell is now saying, don't vote for the bill.
McConnell saying don't vote for it.
Yeah, Alex
Oh, it must be
Boychowicz
really
is
bad
saying
if McConnell's saying don't vote
that
for the
McConnell
bill.
is telling Republicans to block the Langford-Schumer borderless bill.
We'll
That's
jump to
from
that,
Alex-
but let me
Alex
play
Boychowicz.
the Michael Rappaport video. I don't know, is it too crude? Let's
Oh, it's fun.
I think he's funny. I think he's a funny guy.
Think about
This is
it.
why when I say voting for pig Donald Trump is on the table, voting for pig Donald Trump is on the table.
Wait, why is he censoring dick?
The other day in New York City, 6 illegal aliens jumped a New York City cop in
2 of them, right? 2 cops.
Yeah, 2 of
NYPD's
them.
finest. They jumped a New York City cop in Times Square and were
That's
arrested
crazy.
and released without bail. I know it's a city thing. I know it's a state thing. I know all that. I know all that. I know all that. Okay? Stay with me. Released without bail. Came out of the courtroom on some Tupac raising the middle finger with the Detroit Red Wings jerseys. What the is the world coming to? If you could be from another country, beat up a cop in New York City and walk out with no bail, what the is the world coming to? What the
Dude, he's right. Like,
Yeah, Alan Bragg needs
This-
to be impeached.
but this is not just like some cops got to a fight. Dude, I have seen Occupy activists push a cop and get assault on an officer charges,
Yeah.
and they're in deep trouble. These people, like Michael Rappaport, has come from another country, assault officers, and ain't no big deal.
I said it last time I was in the show, and I'm going to say it again. There one of two things is happening here with Michael Rappaport. Either A, the Biden campaign stopped paying him, but we have McConnell saying not to vote for this bill, and Michael Rappaport saying that voting for pig dick Donald Trump is on the table. Maybe the adrenochrome supply has run out, and these people are starting to come back to real life. Maybe it's true. You know?
I think that's probably the case. Reason is not an accident.
no, it's-
Reasonable people are the reason
it's-
this country
it's-
exists in the
I-
first
I-
place.
Definitely not adrenochrome, Ian.
It's not adrenochrome.
come on,
Not a good
guys.
point.
Adrenochrome is reason.
This is
Reason
why-
is taking hold of these people.
This is why I said that line about imagine what it must be like to be a corporate journalist who for a decade said Trump was a fascist white supremacist, and today people intend on voting for the guy. More than half the country. That's why, I love telling the story about the dude I met in D.C. who had Trump derangement syndrome, because part of me, next time I encounter something like this, I'm not going to try and argue with the guy, give a point. I'm just going to say, I'm on the right side of history. That's what I'm going to say to him. I'm going to say, I'm on the right side of
Yeah, that's
history.
good.
You're on the wrong side of history. We got the polls. So you're in the weird minority of weirdos who don't watch the news. I don't know what you're going on about.
If people-
But Michael Rappaport, if he's saying it, wow, we won.
To Tim's point, like think about how many people, like when they get into the voting booth and they're alone, they'll actually vote for Donald Trump, right? They would never admit it, but when they actually got into the booth, they'd actually check for Donald Trump. If people like this guy are articulating that it's acceptable to conceive of yourself voting for Donald Trump, I feel like there's probably a lot of people that this gives them permission. You know what I mean? People that don't feel confident.
This gives them permission to vote for Trump.
Exactly.
Because
they
now,
feel like now I can. Someone else said it. I can do this, and he noticed too. It's not just me. I'm not crazy. Maybe Donald Trump. That's what I think. A lot of people feel.
So the next time I'm at a poker table and some guy with Trump derangement syndrome starts yelling at me, I'm just gonna go, listen, I'm gonna tell you why voting for Pig Dick Donald Trump is on the table, because New York City's finest were beat up. Let's play the rest of the video.
Is the one. I know, Mayor Adams, you're from Brownsville, Brooklyn. I know this. Like, what the have I gotten myself into? Stay with me. On the same day that happens, Cadaver Joe Biden issues an executive order about 4 quote-unquote settlers in Judea, Samaria, aka the West Bank. Some troublemakers, 3 of the 4 have already been arrested. You issue an executive order about 4 troublemaking f***ups who've already been arrested in Judea, Samaria, while there's a war going on, while there's 100+ hostages still being held in Gaza. You're talking about that, but you got nothing to say about beating up cops in New York City, the greatest city on earth. Maybe it's not. Maybe my city is not the greatest city on earth anymore.
Maybe.
But here's the important thing. He's wearing a Star of David. Yeah. One of the things that really shifted Rappaport was the Israel Hamas conflict. And when he's coming out and being like, why is Joe Biden more concerned with the West Bank instead of our cops? That's a huge
deal. Yeah.
Crap. Like the first thing came out was, what's going on with these activists who are anti-Israel? Now he's actually like, yeah, I care about Israel, but this here is more important. He's being pushed further and further. I want to give him a shout out. Last time we talked about him, he has that really funny video where he gets hit in the head with a snowball.
The funniest video online. Yeah.
I know, it's one of the best because he's self-aware. I think he's a funny guy, and I respect it.
What if the whole thing was just a troll?
It was. The video of him getting hit with a snowball?
No, I mean prior to that. All the shit about him, hating the right and Big Dick Donald Trump and all that. What if it's all just a big giant call?
It would be great if he just came out
hilarious.
Really calm. Like, I just want to say to everybody that I never really hated Trump. I just thought it was funny to yell and make fun of him, and I'm voting for him, and thank you so much. And they put on a MAGA hat.
Yeah, after this video, I'm almost positive that they took his bag away. He's not getting money from the Biden campaign anymore for sure.
But yeah, one of the big takeaways of this was he's actually mad that Joe Biden focused too much on Israel. That's the crazy thing. Did you guys hear about Biden saying Netanyahu is a bad dude or whatever?
Yeah.
Yeah,
he's trying to win these votes back.
Yeah, I think that was clearly leaked just to try and appease the progressive left and get them back on. See, I think Netanyahu's not amazing too, you guys, right? We're all on the same team still,
He's a bad dude.
Come on, man.
Runs some bad boys.
But I think that was such an obvious dumb leak, purposeful.
I think once you've won over Michael Rappaport, it's like
that's
it.
But
this is actually it's a good point you were saying, Phil, about giving permission. Because I made the joke about being at the table and saying, next time I'm in public, I'll say something like that. But I guarantee there's probably a lot of guys who are default liberal, don't pay that much attention, but have been given permission. Yep. Now they can still insult Trump, but they can be like, yeah, pig dick Donald Trump, But I got to be honest, man. Like, I might vote for him because, dude, like Joe Biden, and he's a cadaver, you know what I mean? And,
Yep.
They can't. They're not going to be able to put Joe Biden up in this election. Something's going to change soon.
What would they give him? I mean, who would they put up instead? Everybody hates Kamala.
Yeah,
and she only has one phrase.
You know who it is? It's going to be the Antichrist, Newsom from California. That's
you think
you got to. There's got to be a way to get around Kamala though, and Kamala is literally kryptonite to a white male progressive.
Yeah,
what is he going to say?
How is he really? But she makes absolutely no sense.
Yeah. It doesn't matter. It does not matter. She is. Everyone knows that she is like the worst absolute worst person the Democrats could possibly field, but at the same time, they can't do anything with her. They can't attack her. She's the first woman. She's got multiracial. I mean, she
multiracial
is
female,
untouchable. And if you do, she absolutely will turn it on you and call you. You're the racist. You're the blah blah blah.
Yep.
She will use that at the drop of a hat.
Done. I think that's done.
Kamala
I don't
Harris-
think
Not
anybody
on the
cares.
left. It's not.
I don't think anybody cares about being called a racist
Kamala Harris
anymore.
withheld evidence
I just don't think
when
it
she
even matters.
worked in San Francisco. She withheld evidence
Yes.
that kept somebody on death row that
this
she
is
knew
why
was innocent.
like a lot of there's like a lot of black
They can't
progressives
say
who
anything
hate
to her.
Kamala Harris
Libby-
because she locked up more black people.
Oh, way more black.
You know,
people, yeah.
based on like
But
crap
she also
evidence.
withheld purposely
yes.
withheld evidence, knowing that somebody was innocent to keep him on death row.
None of that matters.
And none of
to
that
the
matters to the
Democrats.
left at all.
I don't
So,
even think that she has the ability to see what can be. Never mind being unburdened by what
I
might
believe
have
it's going to
been.
be Newsom. I do. I really believe that he's going to do something.
I don't see.
crazy
How, I
soon.
just tell me how they get him. How do they get her out of the way? Tell me how they do it, and maybe because I don't think that Newsom. Like I think that Newsom is far more of a threat to not only to the United States but to like Donald Trump and to Republicans. But how do you get him into the position to run?
Well, you'd have to get her
without-
to resign, but
How?
she's power hungry.
How?
She only
Exactly.
had
Way she's
3% of the
doing that.
vote when she was running on the
she's
Democratic
horrible, yeah.
ticket. You know, when she was
did
trying to
not
get
poll well
that ticket.
at
Yeah.
all.
So, look, like I said,
You know who is polling
3%.
well?
I don't
Decently,
think that
Nikki
Kamala
Haley.
Harris is good, but I just don't see the path to
Vice
get her
president.
into the position.
Yeah.
We'll jump to this story from CBS News.
Oh boy.
RFK Jr. mulls running for president as libertarian as he struggles with ballot access. So
Tell him he has to get nude to do it.
I will say this.
He'd be into
I have
that,
heard
though,
some
wouldn't he?
people who are Libertarian Party members associated with the Mises Caucus. Nothing from high up, just mutterings from regular folks that this is their big push and they really do want this.
Yeah.
I'm curious. Is it true and what's going on?
Yeah, I believe it is. I believe they do want it. Whether they want him to get the nomination or not, they definitely want him to jump in and shake up the election. There's no doubt about it. I think I've seen grumblings from several people in the Mises Caucus, including my good friend. And I just made a video about this, 5-minute video about this that I put out in public. So it's not like I'm saying anything that I haven't said. But I think that Heiss and Angela, the chair of the Libertarian Party, as well, we've seen her make comments that show support for an RFK Libertarian run. And the problem is I don't think RFK can get our delegates to vote for him and make him
He's
the
not a
nominee.
libertarian.
Well, he's terrible on every issue except for one. I mean, really, he's been.
What's the one good issue?
Well, the healthcare freedom stuff. I mean, the guy's
Healthcare freedom.
Yeah, he's a medical malpractice lawyer. I mean, that's what he does, right? So like he came from litigating these really high profile medical malpractice cases, and so like of course libertarians are like, yeah, healthcare freedom, but he's like the Homer Simpson meme with all the fat pinned up behind him, where it's like and socialist monetary policies, and he's an eco-fascist, and he hates guns, and it's like.
And he wants to rename Columbus Day to Indigenous Peoples Day.
Oh, jeez, it's and he's and
might work
he
for some
said
libertarians,
directly, if the House were to bring him a bill banning the Second Amendment, he'd be happy to sign it.
What?
He said that.
How did that come out?
He publicly has said that.
What was the like?
He's been anti-gun
context
forever.
of
Listen,
that,
this
'cause
guy's
that's
this guy's an
insane.
old school progressive. I mean, not progressive. He's an old school Kennedy Democrat. He's good on a couple of things. He does hate the deep state. I don't believe that he knows what the deep state is.
When did he say that? Sign a bill.
You got to look it up.
I'm trying.
Look it up. I've seen it a million times though. Let's see. Look up Kennedy. I'd be happy to sign Second Amendment.
Considering
abolition.
the performance that he just had on Dave Smith's podcast
3 months
was
ago, vows to respect Second Amendment and not take it, yada, yada. Gun control cannot meaningfully reduce gun violence. Comes out against gun control in June. All of them are basically anti-gun control, but he is a liberal on them. I mean, I suppose the issue is if he said years ago something like that, it's important to
Well, he's
bring
been
that
saying
up.
that stuff for a long time.
Right,
too.
it's important to bring that up. And now that he's running and he knows it's not a popular issue with moderates, he's evolving on the issue.
Well, yeah, he's going to say whatever he wants to say to get elected. But what the problem is here, he didn't understand what running as an independent would be like as far as ballot access goes, right? We're talking $100 million to get ballot access across the country. As a Libertarian Party, we spend $2 million a year fighting for ballot access in like 3 or 4 states. And we've are a pretty, established party as far as third parties go. We're the third largest party in the United States. We're the fastest growing party in the United States. And he didn't realize like, this ballot access stuff is really, really hard, and so he could come over and get ballot access with the Libertarians. But the problem is he doesn't share any of our values at all. And libertarians are very staunch about their values.
There's one state you guys don't have.
New York.
You don't have New York.
Yeah.
Wow. How? Why?
So Larry Sharp actually ran as governor and got the required amount to get us ballot access there, and the legislature went and changed the rules after that and took us off the ballot.
Oh, that's low.
It's New York. That's what they do.
Yeah.
So
What? So the Libertarian candidate for president is not going to even be on the ballot in
we
New York?
we can't. There's a possibility. It's likely to cost us about $300,000 or more.
That we should raise that money.
We're working. Larry Sharp's running a whole campaign to
You
try
need to
and
raise.
some money.
You need to raise how much?
I think it's like $300,000 or $400,000. That's a lot of money.
But there's also caps on how much you can give, right?
Right. Exactly.
But it's not to a politician; it's a political party, though.
Yeah, I think at PAC you can donate a lot more than just to like. There's 33 like for a federal campaign right now. There's 3,300 individual donor cap right now. But I think with a PAC and stuff like that, which I think they're working with, you can donate a lot more money to them. But yeah, it's a lot of money and it's a lot of work, and they need petitioners, and they have to get out and get like they changed the amount of petitions signed that you need to like some ungodly amount. So, and they don't have a whole hell of a lot of time to get it done.
Do you know?
Yeah. So it looks like let's see, there might be the party committee, state, district, and local, unlimited, and national committee, it's unlimited.
Yeah, that makes sense. If it's
that means
our
that-
national committee, you can just. I mean, we had people donate like a house, and I mean, you can donate.
But I mean, if
unlimited,
if the Libertarian Party only needs $300,000 to get on ballot access,
not doing great financially right now.
that's actually surprising to me that the Libertarian could not muster. I mean, how many Bitcoin creepos have?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing:
money?
the Libertarian Party's been existing on like $1.7 million a year budget for a decade, so it's not like it's a ton. They don't
Was
have a
it
ton of money.
bigger before a decade ago?
No. I think the biggest we ever were in 2000 when Harry Brown was the candidate, and he actually doubled the size of the party membership. I don't know that meant that we had more money.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm wrong. An individual can only give the party $10,000 per year.
10,000, yeah.
Right.
For
I was reading it wrong.
yeah, for individuals, and then PACs can give like way more money.
No. It's 41,300. Sorry.
How
I'm
many
reading this
times are
thing
you going to
wrong.
read this wrong?
Individuals
I sat on the
Or
national
donating.
committee for 2 terms.
to
3
the
terms, by way.
National
I should
Party
know this one.
Committee, it's 41,300.
I think it used to be 30. Now that I'm thinking of it, I think it used to be like 35, 60, but they've upped the cap on these things. They did for the presidential election too. It used to be like 27 or something. Now it's 3,300 that an individual can give.
Where do people donate to the party?
LP.org.
How many petitions do you need to get in New York?
I don't know. Larry Sharp is the man that would know that. He's running the whole.
Yeah, I think
thing
we've had him
there,
on a
so.
couple times.
Yeah, Larry's been here for.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's been on Rogan and stuff.
He's running
too.
for governor, right?
He did. He's not running for governor currently.
Hmm.
And I've been trying to get him to jump in the race to run for VP. But now Clint has announced that he's running for VP. So that's my
Russell,
guy.
ladies and
Clint
gentlemen.
Russell is running to be VP for the Libertarian Party.
Yes.
Who do you think's actually get? Well, I mean, you want it,
I'm running for president.
right? That's what I mean.
I want Clint to be my vice presidential candidate.
Oh,
for
okay,
sure.
right
Yeah,
on.
There's no doubt about it.
Who do you think's going to get it?
Right now, it's like kind of a four-way.
I shouldn't ask
head-up.
you that way.
Yeah,
I should ask you who's
the front runner.
Who's the front runner?
Yeah, it's me, Chase Oliver, who's kind of like the left-leaning, social progressive libertarian, but he has some good policies too. But he's like the gay guy who always talks about LGBTQ rights and stuff like that. There's also Lars Mapstead, who actually founded Adult Friend Finder, so he actually helped create this terrible OnlyFans culture that you see in America today. So he's the loaded candidate. He's got millions of dollars, and then of course Michael Rechtenwald, who you've had on the show as well as the Mises guy. So
That's interesting.
And then
'cause I've been asked about Rechtenwald a lot by a lot of people I meet outside, like just out in the streets or whatever, who are libertarians. They'll be like, "Oh, what was Rechtenwald like?" And I'm just, I don't know. But I find that interesting. It seems like he's got the name recognition.
he's I don't see it. He only raised $20,000 in the last quarter, so it's not like he's getting like a ton of play.
What about you? Have you announced
A little bit less than that. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Do you do crowdfunding?
Yeah, I mean, we're raising money at joshuasmith2024.com. Yeah.
Man, it's kind of wild how successful the Libertarian Party is, despite its like.
Shoestring budget. It's a shoestring
Yeah.
budget. Yeah, and they put it together and worked really hard, and it is the fastest growing party in the country. And I think that, we're not going to win the presidency in 2024. I talk about that all the time. Like,
Not with that attitude.
No, but any libertarian candidate's like, we're going to win the presidency in 2024 is just lying to themselves, really. I mean, but we do have the opportunity to,
With RFK Jr. though, he gets you past a certain threshold.
it would that we talk a lot about this 5% threshold, which I actually found out means minor party status. It's like 15% to get into the debates. Of course, if we poll at 15 in any of the major polls, they have to put us on the debate stage. That's what I want. That's my biggest
And
goal.
that would be like in the general.
Just polling to the general, not even in the general election. So like if we polled at 15%, there's a requirement for the debate commission to allow that party to debate. So we would get on the stage with, whether it's Trump or Biden or Trump or Newsom, you'd have a libertarian up there saying these things.
That would be
RFK
very
Jr.
worthwhile.
Yeah.
An RFK Jr. Dave Smith VP ticket. Would you be VP for RFK Jr.?
No, I
So,
couldn't do it. It would be too much of a conflict for me.
See, here's the issue I see with it. If the idea is you're not going to win, why wouldn't you just take an RFK Jr. candidacy and just get the numbers?
Because then we fool everybody about what the Libertarian Party's about. We saw this with Gary Johnson and Bill Weld. Bill Weld sat on the board of CFR, right? I mean, this guy was he was terrible on nuclear energy. He was terrible on all kinds of stuff that libertarians support. And so him and Gary Johnson went out and they talked about, well, there should be some minor restrictions on the 2A, and Hillary Clinton's really a great public service, and this and that. And so then we got this like huge influx of membership for Gary Johnson that all ended up being like the leftist, like social progressive libertarians. And once they realized that, hey, that's not really what the party stood for, they all left.
The social progressive libertarians are probably have the worst to offer because they're just the Democrats with no freebies.
They're the Democrats who like guns.
Yeah, they're
mostly,
Democrats.
I mean?
You can get guns out of them, and
No, it's
And they're going to end all your entitlements.
It's respect my pronouns.
Yeah.
No welfare.
Yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
yeah.
It's all of the bad things about the Democrats, but you get guns and you get a bunch.
Well,
of
and the problem
freebies,
is that these guys are like, well, we want to, and Jacob Hornberger, who is running but has totally destroyed his campaign, talks about this all the time. Like those guys just want to like, oh well, Social Security, we just want to make a little cut here, and the tax, we want a fair tax, and we want to do that. It's not like they're not looking to try and roll back these systems. They're looking to like take little cuts out, and that's not good for us either, because then people show up and they're like, oh man, you guys are like 2A absolutists and you want to get rid of Social Security for the younger generations, and everybody's like, whoa, what's going on here, and so it's bad for the party to have somebody like RFK, in my opinion. But to the upper brass on the LNC and some of these people, of course they want him because they want the money, they want the donor list, they want all that stuff.
RFK might have no choice.
he's horrible.
Well, and he may not get on the ballot. He's not going to get on the ballot. He's
Right.
not going to be on the ballot in probably 35 states.
If he really does want to, I mean, it's crazy how the Democrats just nuked his campaign.
Well, they had to. They also, may have shot his uncle. So
You think they were going to? He was going to win.
But
And
his dad.
It's not
and his dad too. Yeah, jeez.
I was going to say like his uncle.
So he should be happy. All they did was nuke his campaign, really. But no, it's the truth. The truth is
They may
that
have shot his dad.
yeah,
and his uncle.
Yeah, the truth is that he's probably, as an independent, he's not going to be on the ballot in like 30-something states, and he doesn't have the kind of money to buy the ballot access.
But if he's libertarian, he automatically gets all the ballot access.
Any ballot access that we have as a party, if he gets the nomination in May, he automatically gets our
which
ballot
is
access.
everything but New York at the moment.
I think there's one other state that we're working on, but we're going to get it. I knew we were working on Maine, but we've got Maine now. We hit the threshold.
I feel,
so yeah.
I feel like he'd come in, raise a bunch of money, get it on this ballot in every state, get 8 to 15% of the vote. I mean, he's really popular.
Yeah.
I'm
And
looking
then
at
everyone leaves the party the next year. So.
Well, if,
that's
if,
the
but
thing.
if,
he
you, but if,
doesn't-
but if you, if I mean, I don't think the people who are in the Libertarian Party are morons. If the party convention candidate,
Wow.
You're giving the Libertarian Party a lot of
no,
credit.
hold
there,
on.
Mike.
I'm talking about the Mises Caucus.
Oh,
Okay.
sure.
Well,
I mean, if you've got social progressive weirdo libertarians, your party's fractured and busted.
We've
up
gotten
as it is.
rid of a lot of them. A lot of them have left.
So basically, if the Mises Caucus has taken over, and everyone kind of gets it, and at the convention, everyone's like, look, this is not a representation of true libertarian values, but it is an alliance between an independent and a third party that are trying to
Democrat. He's a Democrat. Even though he's not a Democrat, he's a Democrat.
but you gotta come on, you gotta compromise a little bit. You say
sucks.
he's an independent running right now, who's shut out from the mainstream, who has an opportunity to team up with a third party, and both are trying to smash through the front gates of the establishment.
Sure.
So I understand you might say he's bad, but if we combine, with our powers combined,
In
we're
your
on the
third
debate
party,
stage.
Tim, whatever third party, this non-existent third party that I'm making up currently that you run, Hillary Clinton comes to you.
No. Hillary Clinton's the establishment with
Sure.
all the power, and she's in position.
Sure, but your party needs money. You need donors. You guys have to compromise.
Wrong analogy.
It's the same policy.
You're asking me.
It's the same policies, though.
RFK is not Hillary Clinton. Come on,
Same policies.
That's bold.
Same policies. I mean, the
Which
policies are
ones?
almost indiscernible.
Which
I mean,
ones?
he's an eco-fascist. He wants to shut down businesses that refuse.
He wants to go to war with Russia.
Well, he wants to go to war in the Middle East for sure.
RFK Jr. wants to go to war.
He's been talking about it. Yeah,
I don't believe
absolutely.
that.
Look it up.
Let's pull it
He's
up.
changed his stance on the warfare stuff so much over the last 6 months, especially since October 7th, right? Like big time. So, yeah, man. I mean, he's not great on these things anymore.
Ecofascism is pretty easy to turn people on if you make them aware to being able to reuse the carbon. It's so reusable.
This guy has specifically said he wants businesses shut down that don't go along with the climate agenda. That's pretty rough.
He's bad on
He's
everything.
saying that we
Bad
should
on everything.
withdraw from the Middle East to come back to America to start working on America.
What date is that?
His website right now.
Okay, that's not what he's been saying in the media, though.
Well, look, my point is simply this. Like, it is not fair to compare RFK Jr. to Hillary, despite the fact we can agree that RFK Jr. has bad policies across the board.
Okay.
Hillary Clinton is
I'm trying to think of anybody else.
What about
Hillary
RFK?
Clinton is voting for literally voting for the bureaucracy.
The problem is
deep
that
state,
this person holds none of our values.
No.
Right? And so
Right.
we're going to put him in
Cenk Uygur.
our hot. No, absolutely not.
if
his
I
party,
had a
for
political
your party.
party,
You would.
and Cenk Uygur came to me and said, look, you've got a lot of people who are behind you and we get the poll numbers. I've got a lot of people behind me. If we came together and everyone who was between the two of us knew the point of this was to just drive a car straight through those front gates, and this means y'all are on the debate stage next year, I would say yes. And not like I actually said, if it came down to like Mitt Romney versus Hillary Clinton and Cenk Uygur was there, I'd vote for Cenk. Why? At least he'll pardon Julian Assange, I guess. What am I supposed to expect with the two of the uniparty establishment? I'm not saying I like his policies at all. I think the dude's actually fairly crazy, and he's not an American citizen. My point is simply, look, man, people come to me and they say, Trump did this bad thing and this bad thing, and I'm sitting here just whistling and being like, no new wars. And they're like, yeah, but what about this bad thing and this bad thing? And I'm like, yo, this country has been riddled with such bad things from bad people for so long. And then I'll tell you this. If somebody comes to me and they're like, I'm running for office, and what are you going to do? I'm going to clean up the streets. I'm going to clean up crime. I'm going to restore America, make it really, really great. I'll be like, that sounds pretty good. What else are you going to do? I'm going to go bomb foreign countries. Sorry, have a nice day. I'm not voting for you. You can talk about securing the border. You can talk about bringing jobs back. And then you say, but we got to intervene in the Middle East. And I say, I'm out. Because I know what that leads to in terms of inflation, what it leads to in terms of death, blowback, conflict, crisis, all of this stuff. And I've witnessed some of it. You get Donald Trump. He could literally come out and be like, I don't care about anything domestically. I don't care about any American. I don't care about you. I only care about me, but I won't go to war. I'd be like, okay, I'll take it.
Military command, man. That's their number one job.
So,
How are they gonna command?
When I get these people saying to me, like this guy the other day, and he's saying all this stuff about how bad Trump is and he's a liar, and I love it. He said every business Trump has ever had has gone bankrupt, and I'm just like, well, that's just literally not true. But I'm like, I don't care. I don't care if the dude was in an alley slinging dope. I'm like, no new wars. Let's deal with our problems internally, and we'll have to. So, long story short, and I understand your position. I'm not telling you you're wrong. I'm saying, like, for me, I see the point where it's like, I see RFK Jr. as a guy who's wrong, but I see him as a good dude. He's just wrong. Like, Marianne Williamson is a good person. She's just wrong. And if we could team up and fundamentally change the two-party environment we've had for generations, I mean, that is a grand slam.
Sure. Well, then, listen, great with Robert Kennedy, but why not any other libertarian candidates, right? Like, you have a giant platform, right? And other people have big platforms, and you're all sick of the wars.
Who's polling at his numbers?
They could be anybody could be if they got the visibility that he's had, right?
And this is the point.
He's a Kennedy.
He's a Kennedy.
Yeah, but he's got visibility. People know who he is, right?
He's got the name recognition. He's got the visibility. And so this is the point. The Libertarian Party needs a boost. Here's a guy who was booted from the Democratic Party and cold-shouldered, trying to court independence. I'm not saying the Libertarian Party should bring him on. I'm saying I see the case for let's fundamentally change the system.
I see the case too. I understand the case. I think the case is wrong.
Like
I don't think the delegates are going to put him in that place.
It's kind of
I agree with that on that. Yeah. I don't want to tell libertarians they should vote for him.
Compromise, though, it's a big part of politics is compromising with the enemy.
Have you ever met a libertarian?
It's gotten us to be the most powerful country on earth.
Have you ever met a libertarian? Have you ever met a libertarian and spoken to them? Compromise? Libertarians are known for their purity tests.
Ian,
if you accept the existence of the post office, you will be excommunicated from the Libertarian Party.
Ian, would you
Do
say-
not test them, Ian.
Hold on.
Do not test them.
Wouldn't you say?
Can we just real quick
Would
show?
you say that that compromise has gotten us to where we are today?
Well, as the United States,
Can we just show Ian this meme?
the compromise of all 50 states.
So this is a meme from The Simpsons, and it's Edna, Krabappel, Skinner, and Willie. And he says, brothers and sisters are natural enemies, like progressives and libertarians, or communists and libertarians, or ANCAPs and libertarians, or libertarians and other libertarians. They ruined, damn libertarians, they ruined libertarianism. And then Skinner says, you libertarians sure are a contentious people. You've just made an enemy for life.
That's libertarian.
Pretty much it. Yeah, that's how it is. Nobody hates
tread on me.
libertarians more than other libertarians.
Right.
That's the very truth of our existence. So.
I just love that story about when they asked about whether or not you should be able to sell heroin to children, and I think was it Gary Johnson said no, and they booed him.
Yeah.
They booed him
and
for
that was in 2016 when they had this huge caucus in the party called the Audacious Caucus, and they were like all super like offensive, not even ANCAPs, like leftists really.
Oh wow.
And so the party's changed a lot. We got rid of the abortion plank. They kicked that out, so there's no more like room for error there. And then you got guys like me who I consider myself an America First populist libertarian candidate, right? Like I don't believe in open borders. I don't believe in abortion. I know that we've had this debate on the show several times, but I don't believe that you should be able to sell heroin to 5-year-olds. I don't believe that doctors should be able to push kids towards like mutilative surgeries and stuff like that. I think they should be prosecuted. But I also believe that the Federal Reserve has destroyed the economy, and the warfare state has done nothing good for any Americans, and these entitlement programs are destroying us, and so
Was it Austin Peterson who said it?
yeah, it was Austin Peterson.
Okay,
Yeah, it was
wait.
Austin.
I just Googled it. C-SPAN's got the clip.
Of course
has no constitutional authority to regulate drugs. That being said, at the state level, I would support some legislation that would stop children from being allowed to purchase drugs and prosecute anyone who would put a child in danger, because I do believe that children do need some protection. Yes,
Not a
you
real
should not be
libertarian.
able to sell heroin to a 5-year-old.
His face, too. Austin was by
But
far.
to be fair, people were clapping for him.
In my opinion, Austin was by far the best candidate that year too. And
it.
he was close. I mean, it wasn't far off in the vote.
I think
so.
you need compromise. It's politics. Like I'm an idealist in my soul, but in the reality, I'm more of a compromised. Like I'm down to do things I don't want to do to get by, and sometimes like
We're past that, bro.
Yeah.
And so I was talking to this guy the other day. He said that the Libertarian Party isn't libertarian enough, and I was like, well, what do you mean? I was like, it's Austin Peterson got booed when he said he'd prosecute people selling heroin to kids, and he was like, and he looks at me and he goes, abortion, and I was like, yeah, I think the Mises Caucus are fairly pro-life, right? Is that true, Josh?
The Mises Caucus?
Yeah.
I think there's a bit of a split there, but for the most part,
Like
it's
Dave is.
pro-life. Yeah, and I'm pro-life, and
Yeah.
I think Heiss is probably pro-life, and a lot of these people. But there are still some people who, think there's a good faith debate effort on both sides of the debate, and this
Well,
and
that's
that.
you
I
say
I
good
don't.
faith debate.
Well, I would.
and that's the go ahead.
I would say that I am not in the pro-life camp,
Yeah.
but I certainly do not believe there's a good faith debate with the left on abortion.
Right.
I think that there's not a good faith debate in a lot of areas. Yeah.
There's
Anywhere.
there's a good faith debate with people like me and people like you, or I really think it was a great conversation I had with Glenn Beck on the issue, which I've probably evolved quite a bit on it since then. Probably moved a little bit further to the right on a great deal, because I have a libertarian stance on the issue of the 14th Amendment. And my position on abortion is actually just libertarian. At what point does the government have the right to determine someone must provide their body to someone else? And I don't want to get into an abortion debate, but my point is...
we did this for like on the after show for like an hour.
Yeah, I don't want to get into it. But my point is like, that's where the real debate is, where we actually are genuinely like, what's the constitutional limitations?
Yeah.
What can the government do? And then you have the left that they're just like, we just want to kill babies.
Yeah, it's bad. It's gross. It's like they're basically sacrificing their own children to Moloch, dude. That's really what it is. I can't put
it is a
any other way.
self-correcting problem.
I know, and I have a lot of friends on the right that say let your enemies do what they need to do. You know what I mean? But
Don't interrupt your enemy when they're making a mistake.
so there's a religious argument for me, but there's also like I think that the libertarian argument.
Anyway, the
as
point
well.
that I was making to you, Ian, is that compromise made sense in the 90s when Democrats and Republicans overlapped on almost everything except how much taxes should people pay, and should it be this high for this bracket or this low, and how strong should the border be. Now the issues are like sanctuary states should be able to people should be able to kidnap your children and bring them to a sanctuary state where they can get a forced sex change.
Right.
Like, I don't see a compromise there.
I'm
and
thinking
an abortion at the same time.
More compromise just to get the LP on the ticket.
I found
Well, but you know
That I get.
I found the Reason article with RFK talking about the
What's
gun
it called?
ban. So it's called RFK Jr. The Reason interview, and it's an actual interview. And he says, "I love Tulsi Gabbard because she understands the importance of disentangling or unraveling the empire and unraveling the war machine." So that's good. But on banning assault weapons, he said,
Wait. I want to pull it up. So
"Yeah, it's just look up RFK Jr. The Reason interview."
found it. Okay,
And
let me pull up the quote.
Yeah, but there's another quote here where he says, I'm not going to take away anybody's guns, but if a bipartisan bill to do so passed Congress, I'd sign it."
Right.
He also discussed
And assault
the
weapons
desire-
doesn't mean anything anyway.
Yeah, it's such a vague.
But he's
stupid term.
But that's actually
we've
correct.
long known
if
that
there's
he's an
a
anti-gun
bipartisan,
guy.
I mean,
it's not.
you should sign off on
I would
something
never,
that
as
people
president, I would
want.
never sign a bill
Not
that was
something that's
unconstitutional.
anti-constitutional,
Yeah,
but
not
I
a
mean,
single
I
bill.
do think that it makes sense to say, if this is what the people want,
Nope.
you should do this.
Veto stamp.
Not an
Done.
unconstitutional thing.
No.
I'm saying you're missing my point.
I hear your point. The border security bill, bipartisan, does not mean the will of the people. It means the corporate establishment paid off a bunch of crackpots who are insider trading at the time.
I
And
do
the
wanna- I do
quote
wanna-
unquote border security bill right now is quote unquote bipartisan.
Well, it's not really bipartisan, though.
I do want to shout out
Republicans in the Senate did help them draft it.
my buddy Chris
19
Hansen, who
19
sent me the
senators said
article
no.
from Iowa. I appreciate you sending
The
me
president doesn't actually. The president doesn't have any constitutional leniency when it comes to the border, right? Like he's
No, he
charged
should
with.
not, yeah.
He's charged with. This is your job.
With not allowing an invasion.
Yeah, this is your job.
The point of the presidency is quite literally that if there is a bad bill that's bipartisan, he
He has to
vetoes
veto
it.
it. That's
Yeah.
That's,
Well, I mean,
but
yeah,
they don't.
fair enough. But again, we're talking about this bill as if it's legitimate, as if the concept of needing this bill is legitimate, and it's not.
No, it never was.
It's entirely illegitimate. This is a distraction.
Well, it depends on how you look at it, Phil.
The fact that we've spent, that you're spending so much effort and energy discussing this when the president has every bit of authority that he needs currently in the Constitution to defend the border, take care of all the problems we have at the border. The president has all the authority he needs. This is literally just extorting the American people so that way they can get money to launder in Ukraine and give money to Israel to defend their own country.
How are they laundering money without Sam Bankman-Fried? I don't understand.
Well, I mean,
They don't have their chief money launderer anymore.
This is
It's
actually
all over.
crazy. I actually met a lawyer for his family.
Really?
I mean, look, I got to tell you, I tell these stories about National Harbor, D.C., and this is where all these people are hanging out. You want to meet the high-powered lobby? I got to tell you, man, this casino is apparently the highest-grossing casino in the country. It's I can't even. I don't. There's just like 20,000 people downstairs at the tables, and they're probably all millionaires. Wow. And I cannot fathom. I saw a guy sitting at a table with like 20 grand just playing away, and I'm just like, this is nuts. You go up to the poker room. They had I guess it was, I don't know if you guys know anything about 2550 was on the list, but apparently it was even bigger than that. Long story short, what does that mean? It means everybody who played had to bring $100,000.
Jeez.
So you have basically one or more. That's the minimum.
That's crazy.
And so these are people with $1 million on the table. I was not playing anywhere near that level. I was playing 2.5. And I met a guy who was a lawyer who was talking about how he's actually a lawyer for their family. And he didn't go into any classified details, but it was interesting to hear the perspective he had on what was going on.
Did
with
they
all this
drop
stuff.
the charges on that guy?
I mean, it just seems like it's all dirty.
Yeah, I read that
You know
they
what I mean?
dropped some
Yeah,
charges.
a bunch of the charges
they
got
dropped
dropped.
some charges, but not all.
Yeah, they can't really put him in jail when he was the one laundering their money. You know
I got to say this. I got to say this right now. If you're a journalist, you're trying to figure out how to get started in journalism. I got a tip for you guys, because people often ask, "What can I do to get started?" And everyone always says, "Buy a cell phone and go to the border." I got a better one for you.
Don't tell them stories though. It's a good idea.
Go to the poker room at MGM National Harbor.
Yo.
No, I'm not kidding. The people I have met there, it is wild. I mean, first of all, I was hanging out with a guy who was a Mises Caucus guy the other day, and he knew who I was, and he was like, "Oh," and we're talking about normal stuff. But then you meet a guy who's a lawyer for the Bankman-Fried family, and I'm like, "Tell me more, good sir. If you want to get into journalism, or post-millennial should just have I might do this.
I don't
like
have
I'm going to
enough time
hire
to sit at a table.
Also hang out.
No. I'm saying hire somebody.
Too.
Maybe we'll have
That's what
SCNR
I've been
hire
doing.
someone literally just to play 1-3 and keep an ear open. But really, if you want the big shots, it's 2, 5, or 5, 10. Those are very expensive games, and it's hard. But the things you overhear there, and the things people are talking about, because these are people in DC who have a lot of money. If they're playing 5-10, that means they spent between $600 and $2,500 to play that game. And I got to tell you, these guys, they play more than that. So you have to wonder what job they have in the DC area. And it's not a construction worker. No, you're going to find lobbyists and lawyers, and they love to talk. You can't film here, though. Some casinos do allow it, but if you're in MGM National Harbor, does not. And probably because these guys are going to be high-powered lawyers, delegates, political staffers, people who are doing things maybe they shouldn't be doing, but you'll hear those opinions. I'm willing to bet you will find a ton of stories if you just play the game and ask, like, oh, really? Like, what do you do? What is that like? Oh, is it true what they said about that guy? You're going to get scoops galore. Because these dudes are hanging at the table. They're bored all day. They're there for 6 hours or more.
Probably drinking.
Some of them, a lot of them are drinking,
Yeah.
and the server's coming around offering drinks.
Yep.
Actually, but if you go if Saturday night, I'm willing to bet that's a good spot for a journalist to hang out. Poker room at MGM National Harbor. Now all the DC politicians are going like,
They're like, oh,
They're like, I don't want to hear about that.
Yeah.
oh,
The ones you've had on the show are like, thanks a lot.
Well, I was saying before, I think this is where they actually launder money. So when I played this past week, yesterday, when I was cashing out, they had like a supervisor come over and track the cash out, write down my name, write down the table I was on, the game that was played, how much money was played, how long I was there, and then thanked me for my business. And I'm like, I wonder if that has to do with money laundering.
That's wild.
Yeah, because we talked about it before. If you want to launder money, I was actually talking to some dude there about it, and he was like, "Nah, you don't need to go to a poker room for that. Just bring up a briefcase." And I'm like, "How do you report on your taxes?"
No.
I came into 20 grand. It's really easy. You got a proxy, a guy who works for your company, or just someone you know who you want to have the money, and then you got a guy who's going to make the donation, and they play a hand of poker. And then the guy goes, oh, geez, I'm going to bet 20,000. Ah, you beat me.
Right.
And there's no record of what cards you had. You just muck them. So you don't even know if it was a con game. All you see on camera is 2 guys played a game of poker and 1 guy won 20 grand. Now he reports on his taxes, clean as a whistle.
Right.
And we know what that money's really for.
I've seen Ozarks.
Yeah.
I've seen the movie. I've seen the show. That's what they did the show, right? I mean, that was the big thing.
I haven't seen Ozarks.
Yeah, they opened a casino so they could launder cartel money. I mean, that was the whole thing about the show. So
the poker room is especially interesting. You sit down with your cash, and then you say, I'm going to bet 10 grand, and the other guy says, I call, and then you go, he got me. So let me explain this. Let's say here it can work really simply. Anybody who plays poker knows how you could do this, but for those that understand, you don't need to show your cards. If I've got the best possible hand, let's say I get a royal flush. I have the best hand, but I want Phil to be given money. Phil could have the worst possible hand, or he could have a hand, and then when I bet all my money and he calls my bet and flips over a mediocre hand, all I have to do is say he got me and then put my cards face down in what's called the muck. No one will ever see what I had, which means I can choose to lose without any proof that I actually won.
I wonder if casinos in the future are going to change it so your cards are
Always tracked.
Yeah,
they could. I mean, they can record it. They
Yeah,
could do
we have
little cameras.
we have an RFID table.
Yeah,
They could track it.
Well, and they make the poker hand cameras too for like the big poker.
But you have to
games
show
and
those.
stuff, right? Yeah.
Now they do RFID where you've got it on the table. You get the cards and you rub them. You don't have to, but you try to get them to move so it reads, and then the computer gets all the information. I don't think they're going to spend $20,000 on an RFID table at any casino.
and they're not going to intentionally expose people that are trading money.
Yeah, they're not interested in
They'll stop going to
exposing
the
money
casino.
laundering. They have no reason to stop that.
Like
They
some
like it.
places.
And I am not
might.
suggesting National Harbor does this or if it is any way knowledgeable of anything that's going on.
I was
plug
going
in
to
the
say,
word
good to
casino.
caveat that.
Yeah, I think it's a fine establishment. I just am genuinely,
Make sure we cover that.
dude, I got to tell you, man, I've been to a lot of casinos. Okay, and a lot of people have, but you go to MGM National Harbor, and I do not understand how these people are there. I don't get it. You want to play one hand of like ultimate hold'em. It's basically it's like blackjack, but it's a different table game called Carnival Games. It's going to cost you, let's see, it's 50, 50, 50, 150, and then to play is another. So $200 to see one hand, and if you want to raise your bet because you got a good hand, you're putting another 150 on top. How is anyone playing there? I do not
It's
understand.
got to be people. Well, I don't know. Speculation. They're like from a foreign government. They're like, go to DC, get the job done, and give that city $1 million while you're there. Here's take this
It's
10
Maryland,
million
it's
with
not
you.
DC. National Harbor is a Maryland. Yeah,
How far from DC is
a
it?
couple miles.
So it's like a hotspot, a DC hotspot, but it's out of DC.
So this is the thing. I'm like, I really just think maybe there's a lot of big money coming.
Yeah, there's no
through DC.
gambling
It's
in
like
DC,
Arlington.
right?
No, but
No.
National Harbor is Maryland, and it's just south of DC. And I'm like, maybe DC is more powerful. It's not listed in one of the top cities for millionaires. It's actually nowhere near it. But there's a lot of money running through there, and I'm
There's
seeing
a lot of diplomats too. Diplomats have a lot of money.
that must be it. But I'm like, I'm seeing what looks like some working class dude pulling $25 slot levers, and I'm just like, this is the craziest place I've ever
There's
been.
also
to.
people ruining their lives with gambling. I mean,
Yeah.
you can't take that out of the equation.
Sure, but I don't know, man. You go to like Maryland Live or
Gambling's like heroin to some people, man. It really is bad. It is
yeah,
a bad addiction.
I get it, but like, I mean, look, if someone's making like $80K a year, they get their one paycheck for the weekend. They're going to be there for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I don't believe that.
Like
Like,
where all that big money's coming from.
I mean, maybe it's just the reality that DC's got a lot of secret millionaires and a lot of money flying through, and people are going to go to the casino.
I think 7 of the top 10 richest counties are the counties that surround the DC area.
I don't know about that many, but I think one of them, one of the highest.
Yeah, like Fairfax is really rich.
Yeah,
isn't it?
I don't think it's 7 of 10. I was looking this up to try and figure it out, and it's like California has
The whole
has-
Chevy Chase
So
area.
Marin County is one of the richest counties in the entire country. I know that, and that's right across the Golden Gate Bridge.
Is there a lot
from-
of gambling there?
No, and
not at
it's
all.
Sausalito. It's all Bay
It's
territory. But
Loudoun
the funny
County,
thing is, there's
Loudoun County, Falls Church, Santa Clara, San Mateo, Fairfax, Howard, which is in Maryland,
These are
Arlington, Virginia, Marin County, which is in California,
Marin County,
Douglas County in California. So yeah, I mean, it's not the 7, but it's got 1, 2,
It's got a lot.
3, 4, 5 of the top 10.
So you're effectively
Virginia
right.
or Maryland.
Fun
So-
fact:
Yeah.
the Golden Gate Bridge is one of the still privately owned by a secret group of people
What?
from
Good.
Marin
Is that
County.
right?
Yeah.
The Golden
How do
Gate
they fund
Bridge
it?
is owned by
I don't know
a
if that's
secret
still the
group of
truth, but that
people?
was the truth for many, 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 many years. Yeah, it was like a secret group of people in Marin County that actually.
Oh, in
owned
Marin
the bridge.
County, you don't say.
Yeah, of course,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to go to Super Chats. If you haven't already, would you kindly smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends. Head over to timcast.com, click join us, become a member, so you can get access to the uncensored members-only show and join our Discord server. If you sign up for at least 6 months at $10 a month, you can call in. But if you want to call in even tonight or tomorrow, you got to sign up at the $25 a month level. It's a screening process. And then after 6 months, you go back down or whatever, you should be good. We do that because we need to figure out a way to keep the crazies and the like the swatters and the attackers and the activists from screwing everything up and jamming us up. And but you will help support our work. And we're having March 5th a live show. So this is in 1 month, live in Martinsburg, West Virginia, at our Cast Brew location, which will not be open at the time, but it will be on the second floor of the building. Our private club, not open to the public, members only. If you are a member, you will see the notification pop up. And if you're in this, I mean, we're 1 hour from DC, basically. So if you're in them, 3 hours from Philly, 2 hours from Pittsburgh, an hour from DC, if you're in the area and you want to come check out the show, be a member, because I don't know at what point we will put up the tickets, but it may be like 2 weeks out or something like that. So sign up, support our work. Really do appreciate it. And before we read Super Chats, I do want to give a shout out to our good friend, Taylor Lorenz, for one of the nicest things she could have possibly said in relation to my work. I was deeply moved. I saw an interview she did where she said Tim Pool is dishonest, which shocked me until she explained in greater detail what she meant. She said Tim Pool does not do journalism. He comments on other people's work, and he is dishonest. And I went, oh, she's saying the news that I am reading from the New York Times and from the Wall Street Journal is fake.
Based.
But that's
I support
the
it.
gist of what she said.
Isn't that what most podcasts do? We look up current events and then comment on current
but
events.
just
Sometimes when you
Just-
say something
but-
someone disagrees with, they'll call you dishonest, but you just don't
No,
agree.
but this is the
Doesn't mean
point.
you're not lying. Doesn't mean you're
She
lying.
literally says in the interview, Tim Pool does nothing original. He just comments on other people's news, and he's dishonest. But if I'm commenting on news, what's dishonest? It's not my opinion on the news, right? Because an opinion isn't a fact-based question. So she's saying the news is fake.
She said the quiet part out loud.
She did.
Sure, yeah.
I appreciate it. We're going to read super chats. All right. Steven says, second. Hello, Josh. In fact, good sir, you are first. Steven. There you go. Shane H. Wilder says the Alaskan National Guard will probably be deployed in the summer so they can pass out in the Texas heat in a Napoleon invasion of Russia scenario. Well, it may be early next year. We don't know exactly when. The point is, why are you going to announce this? I mean, this is a bad
seems
idea.
like a virtue signal.
And they haven't done it in 5 years.
At the very least, it was just really a dumb timing.
Raybert G. Stanbert Jr. says, Tim, did you see Bill Maher prove his incompetence once again with PBD on his show when talking about Gavin Newsom for president? It was painful. I do not agree with the general assessment of his performance. What happened is Bill Maher said, Gavin Newsom is a winner. I don't understand why we can't have him. Patrick Bet-David said, are you a results-based guy? PBD, he's so good at what he does with his interviews. And Bill's like, what do you mean? He's like, well, results. You're saying like, he's a winner, so what did he do to win? And Bill says, no, he wins elections.
Right.
Then PBD says, Patrick Bet-David, by the way, Valuetainment, says, what did he do that was good for California? And Bill says, he made it rain. I don't care. He's like, there's bad things about California. I don't like everything he does. I don't actually see this as a gotcha moment, as a lot of people do, because Bill Maher was not trying to make the point that Gavin Newsom's policies are good. He was trying to make the point, this guy is capable of winning an election against Trump and Biden is not. And that is a true and correct point we should be concerned about if they try to swap Biden out for Gavin Newsom. However, I do give some brownie points to, come on, Bill. Don't cheer for a guy. You can't complain about Trump for being bad and then say, I have no idea what the other guy's done. But he's like, not everything Gavin Newsom's done is good. I mean, there's bad things, of course. What has he done that's good? I don't know. Okay, well, now you're talking about Gavin Newsom is a winner, can win an election, and he's kind of bad, but Trump is very bad. Okay, whatever, I get it. It's probably a reason why Bill Maher does not want to come on this show.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair,
Yeah.
he's like a super rich old guy who's like doesn't want to go on anyone's shows.
Also,
so.
because you won't let him smoke weed in here. So,
We offered to go out there and try and work something out. They said no.
oh really?
Yeah, and I will not go on real time. I would never. I can't stand that. That's so silly. Like, it's just WWE.
It's not your format, man.
I mean, I could easily. It's just like sit there for speak for 10 minutes and then you're done,
Yeah.
and then argue with some guy who's going to say stupid things and get a rise out of the audience. Is just. But Club Random. We tried to like, hey, we'll go to LA, we'll set up our show for a week and then we'll come on the show. And they're like, well, can't do it. Whatever. He doesn't owe me anything. All right, let's grab some more. Mr. Battalion says, Tim, have you thought that AK is betting on DT winning 24 since the deployment isn't until 25? Exactly. All these moves that are being made are to create crises under Donald Trump's presidency. They're not going to be able to Russiagate him again. So what can they do? This bill will give the federal government all of these powers, and it's locked in. And if Trump wants to change it, it goes to DC federal court.
Right.
That was the key that you guys pointed out.
Mm-hmm. I was glad I found that.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
I've seen a couple people share it now, but it's not.
That's
it's
the play.
not making the rounds like it should be, because that's probably the crux of that bill. Probably besides the war funds, that is the biggest part of that bill.
And then what happens even if Congress tries to change it? Will it also have to go to a DC court?
It's what it sounds like to me. I mean,
like
I said, I'm not a legalese guy, but it sounds to me like everything pertaining to this issue from now on will have to go through the DC district court.
I think Congress would be able to override it themselves without court, but Trump won't. What's going to happen is Trump will get elected, and he'll be like, we're going to shut it down. We're going to lock the borders. And then immediately Democrats will file suit and say the law of this land says we have to go to DC court, where they will immediately say Trump loses.
And
summary.
wrap it. Well, and he's going to only, even if he gets elected, he's only going to have 4 years. They're going to wrap it up in court for 2.
Yep.
Yeah.
Immediately.
Yep.
Minimum 2 years in the DC district courts.
People forget that you may win the case, but it's gonna take so long for it to get done. It's effectively useless.
Especially in the DC district court. I mean, they're gonna keep pushing it back. There's all these other things are gonna take precedence. It's gonna be bad.
Let's read this one. This is good. Quan Jin says, Shin, want to clarify something you said last Friday. In Singapore, you can't get caned for littering. You can get caned for illegal entry or overstaying your permit for 90 days. That might help with U.S. immigration issues.
Yeah, not for littering.
Yes,
It's
bring
for-
back
it's for-
public
I'm
canings.
not in
think
favor
you're
of
allowed
caning.
that. Yeah.
But
To do that.
I do believe that atypical punishment that is not cruel and unusual. Well, I don't know. Atypical and unusual. I don't know what the unusual means. But I do think there could be forms of penance that would actually be substantially more effective than torture or locking someone up with their gang.
Yeah, it's not. You could do cruel or it's not cruel or unusual. It's cruel and unusual punishment is not allowed. But if it's not cruel, it can still be unusual.
Oh, good point. And if it's not unusual, it can still be cruel, like putting people in prison where they get raped.
Wow, it shouldn't be, but
Right.
I think the point is
solitary
cruelty
confinement,
is
which is
unusual.
very
I think is the
cruel.
point.
Exactly.
Listen, what happens to pedophiles? I don't care. They can go to prison and get raped for all.
No, you
I
can't.
Well, we could use some unusual.
They
Like,
I
will
agree.
fine you.
I agree with the atypical or unusual. Like we talked about this.
Like stocks.
I guarantee you, if I was given like you are the Supreme Chancellor, how will you end crime in Chicago? I would say, when you are caught for violent offenses, we will make you wear a diaper and crawl around in a public park surrounded by everyone with their cell phone cameras filming you. And you have to say "gabi gooby"
Too cruel.
for 2 hours.
That's just
What-
that's just the Navy.
what
man.
is
if you made them do it in their living room, that would be unusual.
And
the point
broadcast
is-
it, though?
maybe.
but
I like it in the park.
$10
because
a
it's
month.
But
very
hold on.
visible.
Here's my question about the definition of cruel. I'm talking about violent criminal offenders who are caught, convicted in a court of law, and their punishment is to be mocked in public.
Humiliated.
I think cruel needs like torture is cruel. Solitary confinement is cruel. These things cause tremendous like lifelong traumas and physical disabilities. You getting made fun of for an hour or so is I got to tell you, in Chicago, these guys are going to be like, ain't no way I'm getting caught, dude. Because they're going to put you in a diaper and make you got to hop like a bunny down Michigan Avenue and everyone gets to film you. And that's forever. You're not going to go to jail, but that will be who you are. And they're going to be like, I don't want to be that.
I like the diaper idea.
I like the
don't
public humiliation aspect.
Public humiliation was big in the Puritan days, wasn't it?
Yeah,
You
it
had
was
like
very
the stocks
big, yep.
and stuff that
Yep.
they'd put you out in public, or Hester Prynne with her A, that was
know.
humiliating.
And people would throw
Here's-
tomatoes
and they did
and
these horrible
stuff,
things.
yeah.
Or the lady who, I forget what her crime was, but her sentence was to work at a fast food restaurant.
Yep.
Right. Yep.
So I'm riding in the car with some skateboarders. And some of these guys from the south side of Chicago is probably when I'm like, 20, 19 years old maybe. And the way they speak, they say, when I go to jail, I'm going to X. They don't say if. They don't say, I hope I don't.
Right.
They say, when I do.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, many of them like that they've done it. And they brag about it.
Yeah.
They go, you ain't no, ish. Where did you get locked up? Man, I spent X amount of time in this place. You're going to come at me, bro?
It's just like getting your wings in the military, man. It's
Yeah.
the same thing. It's like something you're
So
proud of.
But if they said, aren't you that guy I saw in the diaper gabagoobying down Michigan Avenue and everyone laughed at you, he'd be like, no, that wasn't me, I swear to God. So
There's video, buddy. I'm pretty sure that
there's
was
a
you.
meme
Yeah.
where there's a guy who's like on his bed on the internet naked or something.
Yeah.
And then someone tweeted, there's another guy who posted something and someone tweeted him, hey, aren't you that guy that's butt ass naked on your couch? Or he's like, no, it's not me. And they post a picture of it. People are terrified of that.
Right.
And so I'm not literally saying we should have people dress in diapers. I'm making the point that the idea of locking someone in a box with their gang and they like it,
Yeah.
that's not solving any problems at
That's
all.
all the way from
And
home.
we're
It's like a career
spending money.
move.
Yeah,
It's like a criminal career
literally.
move, yeah.
Now and then there's a lot of people. It's not helping. There'll be a guy who's like, I saw this in Ferguson. So they're struggling to pay their bills. They're driving to work and they've got a busted taillight. They get pulled over. They can't pay the bill, so they don't. Then they get pulled over. So there's a bunch of small towns when you drive through the St. Louis metro. Right. It's like 99 different cities. And so when you can't pay the bill, it's a weekend in jail. The only problem, it's 2 days. No big deal, right? But if you've got 6 tickets across 6 jurisdictions, they put you on tour. It's where you go to one jail. 2 days later, they transport you to the next jail. 2 days later, next jail. I'm like, how is taking this guy out of the workforce and stripping him of the money he doesn't have helping anybody because he couldn't pay a ticket?
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, that's
None of that
unreasonable.
solves any problems.
That's not a good reason to go.
And
to
how
jail.
are we taking gang members, putting them in boxes with their gang where they're happy it's happening, and acting like we're solving the problem in any way?
It's like Boot Kelly. You guys see he got reelected with 90% people or so, and there's apparently like according to the news, very legitimate election, but people love him. What is he doing to get the gangs off? Is it just severe brutality
He's
in El
just
Salvador
locking
right
them
now?
all
They're
up.
arresting them all.
And they're just putting all these guys
arresting
together.
them
I was
and putting
picturing
them
like
in a brutal prison where they just all sit there.
Arkham
There's-
Asylum. Like it's the worst of their society all together.
Yeah.
In one.
Arkham Asylum.
Basically, that's what it looks like in the pictures.
And they're terrified, dude. So there are guys who have gang tattoos, and they're hiding in the shadows. It's wild, some of the stories I've heard. Because, like, you join a gang, you get a tattoo on your face. Now that Bukele's locking up all the gang members, they're makeup, covering it up, they're panicking. Like, if I get seen associated with a gang in any way, it's straight to lock up.
Yeah.
Yep.
I was talking to my Salvadorian friend just the other day in D.C., and he said, like, he went back just recently after Bukele was elected, and he's just, like, night and day. Like, he doesn't even recognize his own neighborhood anymore from when he grew up as a kid, so.
He said it was
I'm
the
happy
most
for him.
violent country in the world, or at least in
Before,
Central.
and then
it was
until
up,
now.
it was up there, definitely in top
Yeah.
5.
And it's one of the safest in the
yeah.
world.
Yeah, and Bitcoin's legal tender, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah, and, he's just, like,
and
he-
their
he just
economy
can't
is like
recognize it at all. Yep.
sick.
Let's
really
read,
good right now.
This is Zaitsev. Check page 213 of the bill. Aliens from non-contiguous countries shall not be included in calculating the sum of aliens encountered. Whoa.
See.
Can you pull that up? 213?
Aliens described in subsection blah blah from non-contiguous countries shall not be included in calculating the sum of aliens encountered.
What are the which countries
Are they saying that if you come from China to Mexico, you're not going to be counted?
Non-contiguous means if your country doesn't touch the
Right.
U.S.
Right.
Wow.
That is messed up, you
This
guys.
bill, hey, listen, this bill is ass. Call
So that
your
means
congressman tomorrow. Please.
Everybody that is not from Canada or Mexico is not counted.
Yep. In that 3 million
And
a
of
year
course,
that will
this-
be allowed in.
This bill's very important because we got a Canadian illegal immigration problem.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
trying to come
The
in
snow
here.
Mexicans.
We
I've been saying it for a while, guys.
Well, we just
Those
had two
frostbites,
people
man.
arrested.
Yeah.
We two illegal immigrants were just arrested for running a human trafficking ring across the Canadian border.
You should
Oh, that's
screenshot
not
that and
at
tweet
all.
that out.
It's
If
much
that is-
easier to
Yeah.
get into America from Canada than it is to get into Canada from
So
America.
I heard some podcast. Stitch and Adam were talking about this particular phrase, and they were saying that they were thinking that it might be something having to do with Cuba. But the way that it sounds to me, it does sound like if you're not from Canada or Mexico, which are the only two countries that are legitimate, or that where the people could make legitimate asylum claims, because you're supposed to stop in
Wait,
the
so-
first safe country that you come to. If
this
it's the case, then that means that that
breaking the law.
anyone that not from Canada or Mexico is not counted. So the number could be, God
And
knows
that's
what.
for the purpose of closing the border. So they won't have to close the border if it's just all people from not Mexico.
Yeah, so you could have like 5,000 people from Africa, and they don't count towards the 5,000 people to close
Yeah,
the
it wouldn't
border.
make it-
That's
yeah.
what it seems like. That's what it looks like.
Most of
That's
the people
what it
are
seems
not
like.
coming from Mexico.
This bill is
not
this
Mexican
bill.
nationals.
Excuse me. This bill is ass. It
Well,
needs
yeah.
to go away very quickly, very fast.
Everyone should call their Congress people
Tomorrow,
and
all day,
stuff.
Make
all
some
day
noise.
long.
What time?
Call. It's
Should we
all
coordinate
day.
like at 2 in the
Start at
afternoon?
8.
No,
Start at 8
it
in the
doesn't
morning.
matter when. It doesn't. The time doesn't
Yeah.
matter. Just fill up their
Emails.
Is there a website you can go
Calls.
to where
Yes.
you put in your area code and it shows you who your
There should be,
congressman
yeah.
is?
Well, I mean, everyone. You can go to you can Google. If you Google whatever I'm from this town. Who's my congressman? Google will tell you what your district is.
I will say though, Mitch McConnell coming out and saying, so Mitch McConnell's basically the guy in my lifetime that has always been like, oh, there's a bad bipartisan bill coming through. We should vote for it. Like, yeah,
You
So-
said that, but I saw something from Tenant Media earlier that said that Mitch McConnell was for it. So I'm not sure if that.
Oh, I didn't say that. Libby said it. So
Libby
if,
said
so
it?
if it's wrong, Libby was wrong, not me. I'm just parodying.
Libby,
am I
why you
wrong
lying to me? Why you lying to me? Yo, why
Mitch
you lying,
McConnell-
Libby?
Mitch
I'm
McConnell
wrong
is-
about so much.
Mitch McConnell saying to vote against
That's
the
what
bill.
I saw.
He didn't say that?
She said she saw it. So
I saw it on. I said I
I'm
saw
kidding.
it on Alex Broyce.
I was surprised to hear that because Mitch McConnell basically is like
I didn't claim it
the
myself.
bad bipartisan bill machine, right? Like he's the guy that's in the Republicans. It's like, oh, it's another bill that's gonna not help American citizens at all. Sure, why not?
Yeah.
Every time. My
I
whole
rarely
life.
see anything about him that's like popular.
Yeah,
People
no.
are never really stoked. It's always something. That's
What are you doing,
really
Kentucky?
good.
Get it together.
Yeah,
Jeez.
true.
Kentucky's weird.
You have Thomas Massey and Rand Paul
Yeah, I know.
and Mitch
follow up
McConnell
with that,
of all
I
the
know.
people.
It's wild.
Come on.
All right. Jacob Hawley says, Ian, I just want to thank you. Your humanity and compassion and your quick jump to assume the best in people has given me hope. About a year ago, I was depressed, alone, and without purpose. I considered ending myself many times. You and God saved me.
You know what, dude? I was thinking this like yesterday. That if you live in fear, even if you succeed, you've failed. Like you have to have at least that positive like belief in the future.
Hope.
Yeah. Even if things are bad, like fuck it. Be hopeful, man, because things are gonna get better. And live like that.
Hope is what makes us human.
Winston Churchill was great about that during World War II because it was like the darkest time in British history, and people were getting bombed in London. Anyway.
Let's read this. EW says, y'all need to go watch the Dave Smith's interview with RFK Jr. this past week.
did.
Dave 180'd on RFK Jr. The idea that he would VP with RFK Jr. after that is hilarious. Go watch the interview.
Yeah, he wrecked He really. I'm telling you, this is the longest.
He was a fan of RFK Jr.
I think he's a fan of the anti-war narrative that he had been having prior to this Israeli-Palestinian conflict recharging.
But he obliterates RFK Jr.
He really
On Israel.
he took him to task on all of this stuff real bad, and in fact, at the end, asked him, "Do you think Israel has too much influence on American politics?" And it was the longest pregnant pause I've ever seen. It was probably 10 seconds. Somebody made a video of it with the Curb Your Enthusiasm music because it was so long. He was like, well. And then he starts saying, "Well, I'm not really a politician, so I couldn't tell you." Like, okay,
Yikes.
all right, sure you couldn't.
Listen.
Yikes.
I will just say this.
Phil, MTG reacted to it, and
Nobody-
it came from Punchbowl.
Yeah, nobody
I was
owes.
just playing with you, Libby.
All right, so nobody owes us any favors. If you don't want to come on the show,
You
if Bill
make
Maher's want to
so
come on the
much fun
show,
of
then
me.
you don't come on the show. That's
That's
fine.
'cause I love you. I think
but
you're
there
the
are a lot
best.
of these personalities who are terrified to come on this show because they know you say it, I'm going to Google search it right there on the spot and pull it up. And so we've had a hard time trying to book RFK Jr. for sure.
Yeah, it's going to be a hard one for sure. And there's another thing too. He's been invited to the Libertarian Party of California convention. In fact, they're doing a debate there that has him, Cornel West, Jill Stein, and any Libertarian candidate that was willing to pay $5,000 to be in a debate for our own party at our own state convention when they're not charging them, which is kind of weird, right? I would say it's kind of weird. Anyways, so he's going to debate, I think, Jacob Hornberger and maybe Michael Rechtenwald because they paid the fee. I refuse to pay the fee.
Johnny Medler says RFK Jr. endorsed Hillary Clinton 3 times. He's one of them, no matter what he says now. Yeah, but he's pulling votes from Joe Biden.
I think he's pulling votes from both sides.
It's mostly Joe. It's mostly Biden.
I think it's polling now mostly Biden. I think in a general election he's pulling from both sides. I really do.
Yeah, probably a little, but I think he's really got that Democrat flair.
Yeah, but there's a right-wing contingent that really likes this guy because of his COVID stances. I mean,
oh yeah, COVID's content with Trump and COVID.
but if you guys are looking for a COVID
Operation
guy,
Warp Speed.
I want to put the COVID regime in Guantanamo Bay. So
All right, let's read this. Domestic Tourist says, please pray for my dog Scout, cast, crew, and listeners. He is currently battling bone cancer, and I'm not sure how long he has. I'm a veteran of Iraq and Afghanistan, and he's my service dog. He saved my life. Right. Sorry to hear it, man. I hope for the best. I hope he has a good recovery, and just cherish every moment you can have with him.
praying for your doggo, man. Thanks for service.
We gave
Heal those bones.
So Mr. Bocus, we were on Friday. You know, someone came down and said he's like sprawled out on the ground, like staring at the floor, his face just flat on the ground, and we were kind of worried, like at any moment he could die. I mean, we've artificially lengthened his life as long as we can. He's got a defective heart. He's got defective kidneys. And he's young, but this is, you eat garbage and live in the street. Maybe when he was younger, he ate some chemical or who knows. And so we came up and he was sitting there. And so I thought to myself, you know what? He's on the special diet for his kidneys, but it's looking really bad. He eats, he's hungry. That's good. That's a good sign, but he's not putting on weight. So I thought we should give him some raw beef. Because he really, when he came up here, was trying to eat the biltong like crazy, but he can't eat it. It's salted and it's spiced. And I was like, he's showing signs of like, this may be the end.
End of life, yeah.
And so if he loves beef, he's got his last meal coming, buddy.
Yeah.
And so we gave him a chunk of raw beef. He ate it. He's looking better. And I have read studies about feeding cats raw meat, because it's literally what they eat. And so I'm hoping, and it may be a stupid thing to hope, that if he is about to die, and I'm going to give him some good food before he goes and let him fill his belly with raw meat like he'd love to eat. I'm happy he gets it. But I'm kind of hoping that maybe that
kickstarts him.
Yeah, it's that just eats it and it helps him put weight back on or something. And so I looked into what is the lowest phosphorus meat, because that's what you got to watch out for his kidney problem, and it's beef.
Yeah.
And so I was like, straight up, non-salted, low sodium, just regular old raw beef, and he went nuts for it. I'm hoping that keeps him eating. And I'm hoping the raw meat is better for him and helps him put weight back on. But if not, then I'm just happy that
he had a good end.
He had a good last meal of the raw meat. Because this stuff we feed him for his kidney diet, it's little, dry pellets, and then he's got this canned food that looks like
it sucks.
garbage, and he eats it, but he just like
Yeah.
Why would you not just want something good?
I've got the Liver King's beef liver like a supplement pill, and every once in a while I was undoing a capsule and putting a little powder on. Man, he goes nuts for that beef. He wants it.
You should get on the Liver King's growth hormones, dude.
Shout out to the Liver King.
I
Serge,
want to
you know
see
what
you
I'm
just
talking
get
about.
absolutely jacked like that,
Yeah,
dude. You
I'm
should
on
do
my
it.
way.
That'd be great.
I worked
man.
out
in like
Miami
3
or
months.
Get like a
just get
supercharged
shredded.
vehicle and just
Yeah,
get
yeah.
super jacked. It'd be great. I'd love to see it.
And just claim like liver and clean eating the entire time.
We'll get you some cream
Dude.
and clear. You can take a bath. Of that
Yeah.
stuff,
I'm gonna
dude.
do a liver cleanse. I'll tell you guys about it on another show.
All right.
Sweet ass.
Phobes says, "Hey Josh, it's simple. Just ask Tim whether libertarians should vote for Dick Cheney if he were the libertarian nominee."
That's a funny joke.
Yeah, but like,
No, that's a funny joke because Dave Smith asked Nick Sarwark, the prior chair of the LNC, who I was at war with, on his show, do you think libertarians should vote for Dick Cheney if he's the nominee? And he said, Hitler, Hillary Clinton, anybody. Yes, they have an obligation as a libertarian to vote for them because it helps the Libertarian Party, and that's kind of where
Nick Sarwark is very dumb.
that's why we took over the party. I mean,
My,
Nick Sarwark was the reason why we took over.
one of
the
my
party.
favorite points to make was I'd constantly hear these Trump supporters, conservatives in general, say, if the libertarians just voted for Trump in 2020, then Trump would be the president. And I said, libertarians don't like the Republican Party. Like, they have this worldview, not all of them, but many of them, that libertarians are conservatives.
And we owe our vote to the Republicans too. That's the other thing.
It's like, I'm like, libertarians don't like 90% of what Republicans do. I don't understand why they would want to vote for
a lot of us were Republicans, and in fact, the modern libertarians today came from the Ron Paul movement. Okay,
Yeah.
and like we watched them arrest our caucus members at caucuses around the country for Ron Paul. We watched them change the national convention rules to keep delegates out. Like we're not going back.
We got one more. It's a good one. Ra Gidnuck says, anywho, you must get Rappaport on Timcast. Give him platform and expand viewers, please. He's hilarious. And I'd love to hear him rant about Pig Dick Trump and Cadaver Joe for 2 hours. I'm sure not alone in desiring that. So we've reached out to his agent, and we are trying to get him on the culture war. I think it would
so
be
great,
I think
dude.
it would be 2 hours of laugh.
That would be
riot. I think we'd be
hilarious, yeah.
laughing the whole time.
Yeah.
You know, for the people who don't like
He's
Trump,
so funny.
yeah, the people that we like, I gotta say, for all the people who really hate Trump, he's a funny guy.
Yeah, he's
and
hilarious.
self-aware. So I feel like it wouldn't be this thing where we're just yelling at each other about we're being wrong. I think we'd be laughing our asses off with everything he says.
He's been funny for years.
Yeah, I would really enjoy that. So I hope he gets back to us and he agrees.
He made a whole career off of being a bad actor.
Yeah.
Like literally, that was like his whole shtick. It's like I know I'm a bad actor. I act bad in movies on purpose now because that's who I am.
He did some. What was he doing?
That
in the
Snowball
90s?
video, man.
There was something he did in the 90s.
He was in my favorite movie, True Romance. It's like my very favorite movie ever made.
All right, everybody. If you haven't already, would you kindly smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, share the show with your friends, head over to timcast.com, click join us because the Members Only Uncensored show is coming up in a few minutes and you don't want to miss it. So click join us, become a member, watch the Uncensored show on the front page of timcast.com. It is going to be a not so family friendly show, but it's totally worth it. And you're supporting our work. You can follow the show at Timcast IRL. You can follow me personally at Timcast. Josh, do you want to shout anything out?
Yeah, follow me on Twitter at Joshua at Large, and of course, go check out my show Break the Cycle with Joshua Smith on YouTube, Rumble, and also Odyssey. But we're live on YouTube, so.
I am Phil That Remains on Twix. I'm Phil That Remains Official on Instagram. The band is All That Remains. You can follow us on Spotify, Apple Music, Pandora, YouTube, Amazon Music, you know.
When's that album coming out?
We're going to release some music end of March, first week of April, at the very end of first quarter, beginning of second quarter, will be first release, and then the record should be June.
Have you announced which songs are getting released?
No, but you know which one it is.
I know. I'm just like, I'm waiting. It's such a good song.
We have,
dude. It's so good.
We'll have the mix hopefully in the next couple of weeks. I got one more trip to finish up 2 more songs, and then we got to do some vocals and stuff. But
You going heavier or softer?
Well, now
Good mix.
it's all acoustic now.
Dude. Can we play it on the show?
No,
Launch it?
it's his fault for asking that.
Like, holy shit.
Once we've launched, you want to play it on the show? We should play.
It's not acoustic. I'm kidding.
We should do an acoustic album, man.
Can you
That'd be
do an
badass.
acoustic
That'd
version?
be pretty
of-
savage if you
we
did that.
we can do a couple songs. We've done 2 weeks acoustic. We've done Forever in Your Hands acoustic. We've done a couple of them acoustic. We can get away with it, but not everyone.
we do-
like I can't do like No Knock or
Can't
or
do
like,
This Darkened Heart
I
acoustic?
can't
That'd be
do
pretty savage,
Darkened.
dude.
Can't do Darkened acoustic.
I'll just say
falsetto.
this before we jump to Libby, but I've heard the songs,
I'm
and
dying.
I'm just like, I was talking to Allison, and I was like, when did Phil show us all this? Like, we were playing it. Like, Phil's like, here's a sample, and I'm playing it in the house, in my playlist before anyone can hear it. I'm honored
Damn
to
it.
be able to do. But dude, you got to release it. I'm excited for it.
Like really, the thing is, it's just a matter of getting everything done. Everybody's got a bunch of things they've got going on, moving pieces, getting our drummer, getting time and stuff. So, but it's coming. It's almost done. We've got like just a couple more things to finish up.
Did you get the drummer to play a disco beat?
No,
You have a drummer
All
that
right,
plays
anyway.
classic with like the.
not anymore.
Oh,
All right, Libby.
I haven't seen you in a while. Sorry.
Hi, I'm Libby. Thanks, guys.
I adore you.
Oh, you're
When's
so
your album
sweet,
dropping?
Phil. My album is dropping in just a couple weeks,
All right.
and I'm really excited about it. I hope that you guys all come to. I don't know. What do you do in albums?
CD
do you have
release.
a party?
CD release.
Yeah.
CD release.
Record release.
Okay, so
Any
I'll be
guest
doing-
spots
I'll be
from
doing that.
Ben Shapiro?
No,
Okay.
Ben Shapiro won't be there. Sadly.
It's an album of Libby reading quotes from famous philosophers
Yeah.
and political pundits.
Oh, nice.
For 2
And
hours.
you know, on the B side, it's just me doing some Ibsen monologues from Dollhouse. So it's going to be really pretty stellar. And if you
That
want to
should be
hear
the
more
A-side.
about that, you can follow me at Libby Emmons on Twitter and see all the work we're doing at thepostmillennial.com. We'd be glad if you subscribe to thepostmillennial.com/subscribe.
I want to get that record. Sounds great.
I want to do it now.
Yeah, all right. Well, I'll help you if you want to do that. If you're
That
really
sounds
about it,
great.
let's do it. That's like
Okay.
afternoon's work.
Yo, you could write. You could do like all the like. It could be all electronic, and then it could be Libby
Yeah.
reading
We-
post millennial.
Vaporwave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be
That's
cool.
hot.
Yeah, let's do it. I'm Serge.com. Follow me on SoundCloud. Why not? And everywhere else. I argue with people on Twix. It's fun. Let's go to the after show.
Big ups to everybody here. Good to be back. Good to see you, Josh.
Yeah, you too.
Love you, man. I'm going to be debating Destiny on February 11th. That's next
sick.
Sunday, I think, or Saturday in Cincinnati. That's going to be great. So it's going to be a debate conversation about election integrity. I've been doing research, man. And when you start going down the rabbit hole of finding names of people that work at companies that work with companies, it's like, whoa, what are the ethics of calling out these people?
Destiny does not know what he's getting himself into.
Dude, this is going to be the hottest
He's
Yeah.
the worst.
event Cincinnati has seen in
Oh, I
winter
think he's all
in
right.
a long time. I
but
love him.
he's not going to be able to handle debating Ian.
Yeah, Steve Bonnell. So it's a debate conversation. We'll see where it flows. I'm really looking forward to it. So check it out. I'll let you know more as the week goes on, and we'll see you on the after show.
All right, we'll see you all over at timcast.com. Thanks for hanging out.